And welcome to a brand new life, to a brand new day, all the way from the wastelands of California. My name is Michael, and I'm a mere figment of your imagination. I look forward to once again serve you those sounds of salvation. First time listeners, turn on, tune in, and drop out. This is a very different kind of show, a place where we don't feel so alone. Let us chase away the light no matter what you at home choose to believe. I do admire you for your curiosity. Well, yeah, live and direct right now. And tonight, I'll be joined by multiple souls. Jaimy Mauricio and Valerie McLaughlin are live in the building. Well, not so live in the building. Let's bring them in. Jaimy, are you there?
Hello, Michael. Yes, I'm here.
Amazing. Let's bring in Val.
I'm here.
There you are. What's going on?
Hey,
Not
Michael.
much.
Great to have you. Great to be on here. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you both so much for being a part of the program. I was going to get into the intro, but I thought let's not waste so much time. Let's get right into things. And I'm so glad you guys reached out to me. Originally, it was through an email trying to promote this conference that's going down in Rhode Island. I definitely want to hear all about it. But Jaimy, before we begin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Valerie, do the same.
Okay.
Sure thing. Yeah, absolutely. So, a little bit about me. I am originally from Massachusetts, New England area here, northeast part of the country. My background really, I was really much of a mainstream person. Raised middle lower class family. Kind of grew up like a lot of folks, mainstream, where you're taught to get a good education, get a good job, work hard, pay your taxes, church on Sunday, barbecues and ball games on the weekend. Life's tough, and then you die. And then something happened about 10 years ago where I kind of snapped out of that, snapped out of the paradigm, peeked out of the box, if you will. Something kind of, we could say, supernatural bit happened to me, and ended up writing a book called Beyond 2012, Watch Where You're Going. Something that I never thought I would do. And in that process, in a bunch of synchronicities, I came to realize a much bigger picture. And that's led me to research things like consciousness, ufology, near-death experiencers, philosophy, quantum physics. So the last 10 years, I've dove into the research. And as part of that research, I've had some experiences myself, especially in the area of ufology. So it's really opened up my world, and I think it's fascinating. And I'm really eager to share what I've learned, with so many folks. I think these are important topics. People should realize really what I call the real news, the real events that are going on. And so, when I met Val and she was putting on this conference, X-Filers United here in Rhode Island, I reached out and was really eager to help and jump in. And so, that's where I am. A little bit more about me on the personal side. My education, I am a chemical engineer. So I worked as a chemical engineer for several years, acquired my MBA, and I've been a finance professional for the last almost 14 years now. So my day job sort of still maintained. So, however, as I mentioned, while I have these day jobs, all my free time is really researching the topics that I mentioned. So that's about me, and I'm really excited about this conference that's coming up that we'll get into, and we can talk more about that. But I'll hand it over to you, Michael, and Val. Let Val talk about herself.
Oh, yes. We'll get into a few things in your background that I'm very curious to ask you about. But before we do, Valerie, go ahead. The stage is yours.
Oh yeah. Well, I grew up pretty much in Rhode Island, and I've been in the my daytime job for more years than I want to say. Has pretty much been I've been a psychotherapist, a counselor for people with addictions and mental health issues. So that's been my day job. But since 7 years old, must have been at least 7, I just got into the paranormal, UFOs, like Star Trek. It was all the TV really started me off, and astrology and all the shows, and then I started reading on my own the different topics. I haven't been abducted or anything like that, but I've had one experience of cosmic consciousness that was my most paranormal experience I had. That was in my early 30s. And but I've just been a fan. And the other thing is, I started this out. It's actually been a 2-year process. About 2 years ago, things had settled down and work was status quo. And I wanted to do something fun. I wanted to do something where I could about these subjects. I mean, my friends are great, but we don't have always the same interests. And Rhode Island's kind of, I don't know, it's amazing in New England, the history we have with the hauntings and the paranormal, but there's not a lot of groups around who talk about it or get together and talk about these topics. So I said, and I'm an X-Files fan for 25 years, die hard. I must have seen every episode at least 3 to 4 times. And I said, and the resurgence of X-Files became the last 2 years. I said, that would be fun. And I really liked the X-Files show because it had everything with the they had the paranormal. They had the UFOs. They had the ghosts. They had so many different topics. And you learned about it. And it got you exploring and learning more and reading other people's other magazines or TV shows. It just opened up a whole world, I think, for a lot of people who had very little understanding of it. And so I just loved the show. And I said, that would be really neat. So I started it. And I almost canceled, got a little bit of cold feet. But then I said, no, the universe wants me to do it. I couldn't get it out of my head. It was nagging at me. Nope, I got to do this. And so, things are going well. I got a lot of speakers, but it wasn't until Jaimy came on that with his experience and his reaching out to people and the people who knew, it just exploded. And we are so blessed to have so many great speakers lined up for our conference. It's called xfilesunited.com. Well, that's our website. And it's fear-led, and it's about all things X-Files, the paranormal, UFOs, cryptozoology, Bigfoot, all the different topics. And we have these expert presenters from across the country who are going to present at the conference. We're very, very blessed to have the quality of people that we have listed.
Very nice. It sounds like a good event. Not many events of that nature go on out there in Rhode Island.
No, that's the thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've actually had to say, sorry, we can't have you as a speaker. One, for room space. The other thing is mostly it's because there is not a whole lot here. I guess they were waiting for someone maybe to start something like this in New England, in Rhode Island, where we can get people together. And talk about these topics and learn and grow. So I guess I feel we're filling a void, and this is just going to be a springboard to more and more access for people in the New England to connect with other people and to get more new people interested in. That they didn't know what was there. They didn't know it was in New England and where to find it.
Very, very nice. And of course, I must be honest here. I am, in fact, a skeptic, but an open-minded one. I find all of this very intriguing. Some things are explainable and some things are quite unexplainable. I often admit that to myself at times. And of course, I don't mean this to sound negative in any way, but I'm curious to know, and this time I'm addressing you, Jaimy. I'm curious to know, Jaimy, what is it exactly that makes you hang on to your supernatural beliefs?
Yeah, sure, Michael. Thanks for that question. So, I mentioned my upbringing was pretty much mainstream, but there were a few signposts I'll call along the way of my life that where some events happened that and I don't know how much you want me to get into them, but for the first one when I was younger, you know, uh, I'll call it when I was between the ages of 10 to 14, downloads, messages from, I don't know what you want to call it, but it was in the mid 80s, and I received some messages that I shared with one person that was a cousin of mine, and basically the messages led to what I call a premonition of 9/11. In fact, when 9/11 happened, some almost 30 years later, I immediately called this cousin who I hadn't spoken about this since we were teenagers, and as soon as I called him, he knew I had called him, and so that was one event. But by the time I'm 14, the contact with what I'll call beings, these beings that were I'll call positive beings, basically ceased. I became a teenager, got caught up in mainstream stuff, high school girls, the normal stuff teenagers get caught up with, and kind of moved on from there. And then at the age of 17, had another paranormal experience, kind of on a whim. It started with a Ouija board, and it's funny you mentioned you're a skeptic because I'm an engineer by trade, as I mentioned, so I'm very a science-based, math-based kind of person, and very, a person who was very skeptic to these things. And when
Yeah.
it came to Ouija board, I had always heard, when you use a Ouija board and you ask it questions, your subconscious is answering the questions, and that's what makes you believe. So I won't go into the whole event that happened, but I'll summarize here. But basically, when the first night a friend let me borrow a Ouija board, and I made contact with a being who only made itself known to me as RDL. And in that process, the first night when I used the Ouija board and it started moving, there was an energy you could feel through my body, but I wanted to ask it a question that I had no idea my subconscious could know, because again I was trying to disprove or prove whether or not this was real. And so one of the things I thought of was I'll turn my television on, and when you turn your TV off and on, it comes back to the same channel it was on. So what I did was I muted my television, I looked away, and I changed the channels rapidly for 30 seconds, and I turned my TV off. And I asked the board or this being RDL, what channel was my TV on last? And it answered channel 6, and when I turned it on, the channel was correct. Needless to say, I repeated the exercise again the next day, and it was correct again the next day, different channel this time. And long story short, over a series of months, what happened was basically paranormal events started happening around my home. So not only did I observe these things, but I was a young teenager, 17, living with my parents. They started observing things like appliances coming on and off, lights coming on and off, and it culminated to an event where I actually became I had an ESP, if you could say so, where I would know things about other people before they would tell me. I was having downloads, I was having visions, I was having dreams. This lasted for about a period of 3 to 4 months, and it culminated with a poltergeist event that happened right in front of me. And I think when that event happened, it really shook me to my core. And this being RDL stuck with me for many years, till about the age of 30. It wasn't until I had an experience with a shaman that basically the experiences stopped. So that was a kind of a signpost that I kind of ignored, and I just thought, wow, I messed with something I shouldn't have. And after that, I went on to college. After 17, went to college, but again, this being was showed up every so often. I'll say, until I was about 30, and then that. Go ahead.
I was just saying, oh my.
Yeah, yeah. So that ended up, but then again, the book. So then in 2008, I was living in California at the time. I had moved there for work, and again, moved on from the experiences. Very much mainstream. I was caught up in being, the corporate job that I had, climbing the corporate ladder, and got caught up in that, and all that was a thing of the past that I mentioned. And then essentially, one day I woke up, and this idea of this book was in my head, and I'm very much a math science person, and not very much an artistic person. I thought the idea of writing a book is just absurd. And then in August 10th, 2008, something happened, another, we'll call it supernatural event. I won't get into it. It's in the forward of the book, but basically, this supernatural event happened on that day where basically I heard a voice, and it was a voice that basically said, "You need to write this book," and so I did so. And again, the book is called Beyond 2012. Watch Where You're Going. And upon writing the book, that's when I really dove into down the rabbit hole, we'll call it, and really got into the experiences of the paranormal, of ufology. And in my research, I think the most compelling evidence that I came across, because even as I started researching these topics, I traveled out to a place called Mount Adams in Washington State, and as part of my research, and visited a place called ESETI, stands for Light in Contact with Extraterrestrials. A gentleman by the name of James Gilliland owns the ranch there, and he's pretty prominent. And so I visited Mount Adams, and I saw several craft that during my 4-day stay there, and one that had a particular profound impact on me. And so that's when I think that was really when I turned the corner and became from this kind of skeptic to, I've had this experience, and I call it an experience too, because I think, Michael, for skeptics, it's like trying to tell someone who's never tasted chocolate ice cream what chocolate ice cream tastes like. You can say it's brown, you can say it's sweet, but if you've never had chocolate ice cream, you have no idea what chocolate ice cream tastes like, and you can't tell someone that they have to experience it.
Well, I can agree with that, no doubt. And
Yeah.
my line of questioning simply comes from being in the skeptic mood that I have been in this whole week. Since just a few days ago, I interviewed Dr. Michael Shermer. So I'm still in that very skeptical mindset here. So I do apologize if I come across
Oh,
a
no,
little brass here.
Well, can I just interject something?
Go ahead. It's
Even
okay.
even among the paranormal, and I mean, when I went to the Michigan Para conference in August, they asked people who usually do UFOs and abduction.
Right.
They asked, "Do you believe in Bigfoot or the Loch Ness monster?" or something like that. And some said yes, some said no. Some said, "Do you believe he does hauntings? He does the paranormal investigator?" And he believed, "Yeah, I believe in UFOs. I want one to come down right now, right here and now." So even among people in the paranormal field and the different things, they have their own level of skepticism too. It's like, not just because you believe in one thing doesn't necessarily you're going to believe everything else. And I think that's healthy in some ways. So it's okay to be, everyone has their own level of their own experience, or how far they're willing to believe something. And I think that's just human nature.
Oh yeah, I can agree with you on that, no doubt. And as I mentioned before, I'm an open-minded skeptic, and of course that may sound strange to some out there, since I've had my own few unexplainable experiences, and I don't exactly have any empirical evidence to back up any of my claims, nor any rational explanation for a majority of those claims or experiences, rather. So I could kind of understand completely how some people could sort of dismiss these sort of things.
Yeah, and I think it's true. I mean, some of these things you can only truly understand or believe by having the experience. Like Jaimy said, if you never eaten chocolate ice cream, you really won't get the full experience. You can read about it, you can look at it, but if you don't actually taste it, it's not going to mean as much.
Right.
You still it distances you. But once you experience something, it's a whole different level.
It changes everything.
And other people, it changes everything. And other people, they're not going to they're not going to understand it. I guess they're not supposed to. Maybe that's the way the universe works. I'm not sure. But it's at all levels. And And again, to believe everything is not good. That's not good. That for anybody. That's just too gullible. But you got to have some healthy stick because there's a lot of charlatans out there, and there's a lot of people who misrepresent this growing field, and so you have to have some that some say, well, I don't know, let me check this out, kind of
Well, that's true.
attitude.
You have to have some sort of level of discernment. You can't exactly believe.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't believe all these.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't believe all these
Mhm.
individuals at these conferences, and I've been to plenty of them before. And
Mhm.
of course, some of the speakers that I have seen in the past, I went in with the mindset of, oh, I don't believe a word this man says. But by the end of it, I actually talked to the person face to face, and
Mhm.
I get more of the maybe this might have happened. There's that slight
Mhm.
chance, perhaps
Yep.
they're telling the truth, and they're not full of
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and I think that it's good to have that kind of like you said, discernment. I mean, there's some people who I said, yeah, really, no, I don't trust you as far as I could throw you. And then there's people like Jamie or some others. So I said, wait a minute, yeah, no, there's I may not understand it, but I believe that they had that experience.
Yeah.
That I'm
Hmm.
not getting any BS.
Understood. Understood. And Jamie, so you had all these strange experiences early on, just like Valerie, and these experiences seem to have lasted for a very, very long time. Are you still experiencing anything in the realms of the paranormal, I guess you could say?
No, no, I haven't had any experiences recently in the paranormal. And in fact, well, I've seen I'll say I've seen craft. We'll call them UFOs that I can't explain, so maybe we call that paranormal. But of all the topics, the paranormal stuff is the stuff that um, I'll say still kind of scares me the most because it's something that when one dabbles in it, I think that there's something there that you need to know what you're doing and how to protect yourself, and I don't begin to say I'm experiencing that. I've had some experiences, but I don't. I would say I wouldn't know what I'm doing. So those kinds of things will kind of freak me out a little bit, to tell you the truth. Still,
Right.
especially back to what happened with the RDL entity I mentioned with the Ouija board when I
Mm.
was young and experimenting. So no to the paranormal. But I would say that the reason I'm so interested in the topics, these X Files, we'll call it topics, the
Sure.
cryptozoology, the paranormal, and the UFOs is of those. The ufology led me down a path, and this might I don't know if this is new to your listeners, but it's really in my opinion, it's a spirituality story. So I was raised Catholic and religious my whole life, but spirituality and religion are very different in my opinion. And one of the
Mhm.
things I found through all my research is that there's a spiritual component to it where I've learned a lot about ego and nature of consciousness and what are we doing here, what's life, where does consciousness come from, and some of those things that have been
Mhm.
profound to me that have really had a really positive impact on my life. So one is the spirituality component that I that if it can help others, I'd love to help others realize some of those same things that I've come to realize. And then the second thing I'd say is, I think the ufology topic, and what's really happening out there in the contact from these beings from other places, dimensions, whatever you want to call them, planets, wherever you think they come from. I think it's profound because I think it's the next big step for the human civilization, where it's as big as when we went from thinking the Earth was flat, and I guess some still do, and back
Mhm.
in 500 years ago, to realizing, hey, there's a whole,
Mhm.
this guy named Christopher Columbus, and even before them the Vikings, but Christopher Columbus sailed across, and wow, now we're a global civilization. So that happened 500 years ago. I think the next step for us, for humanity, is to realize, hey, we're not alone in the universe, and we actually can make contact with these beings. And I think we're at the precipice of that, where you know that it'll become eventually known at some point in the future, whether it's a year from now or 100 years from now. I think it's inevitable.
Understood. And Valerie,
Yeah.
you as well had these strange encounters as well when you were young, correct?
Oh, well, no. I was just very interested. I did a lot of reading, studying, watching documentaries. It was the only real experience I had was I was in my early 30s. I was doing a holotropic breath work exercise, which is a whole thing in itself, so I won't get into it. But I had what we call, it's called cosmic consciousness, where you, your spirit, your soul, and I know it's going to sound, you can't explain it, but your soul actually leaves your body and you become one with the universe. I was breathing, all the cells were all across the universe, and I was breathing with the universe, and I felt loved, and I felt supported and warm. It was the most magical experience I've ever had, and when I think about it, I still feel it. I haven't forgotten it. I never will. Most people never get it again. Very few people ever get it again, and that was my that pretty is much my paranormal experience. But I've never forgotten it. And it's a spiritual thing. I was going through a lot of spiritual work at that time, inside and reading and stuff. That I think that played a part. But I can't. It's a sensation, and then when you come back into your body, and there's been books written on that for people who have had this experience. When you get back into your body, you feel like, no, bring me back up there. You know,
Right.
I want to be back up there because now you feel so confined, and it's like you just feel very confined. You go through a little bit of a depression because you know how wonderful the universe is and how nurturing it is. And then you get back into your body and you're living like the mainstream, life, the 9-to-5 job,
Sure.
all the stuff, people being mean to it, all that. And you kind of get a little discouraged because my feeling is if every single human being had that experience, we would have no more wars. We would have a wonderful society because after that, you just know it's about love. You just know it's about more than you. There's something else there, and it's going to support you. You don't have to be afraid. But once you get back in your body, you get back to the mainstream. You get the fears again. You know it's out there, but it's hard to get back to it. And some people, you never get that experience again. Some people have at least another time or twice. Some people go crazy after the experience. Luckily, well, I probably went a little crazy, but not really crazy after the experience. So to make a long story short, that was my paranormal experience. I've never seen an UFO. I've never seen Loch Ness monster, which I want to. I want to go
want to as well.
I want to find it. I want to find the Loch Ness monster. I won't tell anyone because they're going to do terrible things to it. But I want to find it.
Amazing.
And take another crazy picture of it.
That'd be nice. And
yeah.
in terms of being religious, are you religious, Valerie and Jaimy? Same question.
Well, I'm not religious. I'm what we call, spiritual, all that stuff. I believe, and I've over the years, is my spirituality is with the God of my understanding. It's my relationship with my higher power, my universe. I call it the universe.
So
my relationship.
So
to the
Valerie,
universe
Valerie, you turned your back on God.
I turn my back on the concept of the God that people have, dogma.
The social construct.
I think people,
The social construct of a God.
Yeah.
Understood.
Because I think it limits it. The word God, and then you put all these rules and regulations of what these human beings are trying to put words into the God's mouth, and they twist it and stuff. I can't have my spirituality that way. I feel it's a more of a personal experience, that you have a dialogue with your higher power, that your higher power is there for you. You're kind of like a partner. It's like you're here to do something to make this world a better place, and your higher power is going to help you do that and help you through the tough times by love and forgiveness and making you feel, getting you through the tough times. That's my concept of it. It's not you don't eat you don't eat meat on
Yes.
Friday. Women have to stay in this room and men have to be that. To me, that's just human stuff.
Yeah.
It's not spiritual to me.
I could understand. I could understand that and accept that, no doubt. Good point. Jamie, what's up with you?
Yes, Michael. Yes. So I am both. I am definitely spiritual, and I do attend religious service, and I believe through these experiences, I get more out of the religious teachings, where it's less about the ego and the dogma, and more about the main message. So yes, I'm both. I would say I follow religion, but I'm definitely a much more spiritual person now than I probably ever have been. And just to harp on that, when I was young, I remember. I was about the age of 11, speaking of religion, again, raised Catholic, and I remember attending Catholic school. And I remember being at a young age still, again, about the age of 11, and they taught us that if you miss church on Sunday and you murder, those two are equivalent in terms of the offense level. And I thought, wow, I remember I was 11 years old, that stuck with me for the longest
Wow.
time. And so those are examples of teachings where you really you sometimes you question things, but to answer your question, yes, I am religious and and spiritual.
Understood. And you were raised in a, I guess you could say, normal, typical Catholic household.
Correct.
Okay. And does it bother you at all with all these new, well, they're not new, but these ongoing sexual allegations against the Vatican that we've been seeing more and more throughout the media in this current age? But it's very unusual since these sort of allegations came out very early on, yet they were pretty much ignored. And I even remember one prominent character by the name of Father Malachi Martin who once even said he witnessed these strange satanic rituals going on with some of the clergy there.
Yeah, I think that all of the sex scandal with the church is horrific.
Amazing.
And appalling in my opinion.
It really is. It's a devastating blow for everyone out there. I'm sure it's very disappointing to reflect upon that personally. It's an awful
Absolutely.
situation. Yeah, it's terrible. But of course, none of that should turn you away from God, I guess, essentially.
Well, and my feeling is that there's I like ritual, and I think there's a spectrum. Okay, so you have the sexual abuse, and all that stuff, and then you have politics and cooking. But then you have, I know that there's good, loving, nurturing people in the clergy,
no doubt,
who never would hurt a child, who would never hurt a woman, who really care for their people, and who really want to help mankind. But you don't hear a lot about that. You hear about all the other stuff.
All the ugly stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and I do think I was talking with some friends today. I think the Catholic Church I think it has to break down and start all over again. I think it's lost a lot of its purpose, its direction. Maybe not just the Catholic Church, maybe all the religions maybe need a little, tearing down and coming. I mean, they just seem to have lost the message of their prophets and Jesus, and it's all about the politics now, or money, or power and control. A lot of it is about power and control, and I think, but the rituals, the good people in the church, you just don't hear about them, and I think that's sad. I think that's very sad.
Oh yeah, definitely. Lots of good things do come from some of the individuals in all churches out there. Not I'm not trying to paint the picture that all these people
Mhm.
are evil or
Yeah.
any of that or any of that.
No, no, no.
But yeah, I did think about that in terms of denouncing the whole Vatican and most of Catholicism. But then I thought that would actually just anger and offend people even further. Even
Mhm.
mentioning that probably angers a few
Yeah.
people listening right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And again,
Hmm.
when it comes to sexual abuse or abuse, a lot of people still are denial. They cannot comprehend it. They don't want to comprehend it. That's always a big part of when you're talking about abuse and stuff. The thing with sexual abuse is, oh, it's always in the dark. It's always in rooms. There's no witnesses, so there's always that doubt. There's always that, they're lying, all that stuff. You have that. Then you have the denial. You have the people who are just, it's my church and everything, and don't say a word. I don't want to hear it. I got to say that the Pope we have now, I really like him. I mean, I think he was really trying to make some changes, but I think over the time now they have just kind of squished him. But I think in the beginning he was really going to try to be more of a game changer, but I think that kind of slowly dissipated over time.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure if.
And they don't get it.
Mhm.
They don't. I'm sorry. They just don't get it.
It's
Like
okay.
they say, well, just forgive your. This is the counselor part of me. People who've been through that experience, you don't get to forgiveness until the very end. Before that, there's tears, there's pain, there's anger. You have to go through the memories again. You have to reframe it. You have to get support from people. You have to cry. There's so much to the process of getting through trauma. You just don't forget and then forgive in 20. You can't do, and the Catholic Church doesn't understand that. They just don't. So if they learn better, if they understand what the people really went through, and know that it's a process in itself, and they can be a healer, they can be more healers through that process instead of saying, "Well, just forget about it and forgive." It doesn't
Well,
work that way.
right. And my question is, do we forgive these people? That's the real essential question. Can we forgive them for their actions and their wrongdoing? And personally, I kind of can't forgive them for that. That's just me speaking. I know that might offend some people out there, but when you are in that position of power and you are treating your own flock that way, and I'm not religious by any means. I'm being completely honest here.
Right.
Yet again, an agnostic atheist, and have been
Mm-hmm.
since I was in about seventh grade, and that was a long, long, long time ago. But
Yeah.
I've always been that way, and I do forgive people. I do have some of those elements in me, my own principles that I do follow, and most of them do have forgiveness in them. But again, it goes back to being in that position of power and manipulating those who you claim you love,
Mm-hmm.
yet you
Yeah.
do this to them. So, in my
Yeah.
opinion, I can't forgive that. Jamie, how do you feel about that? Can you forgive them, Jamie?
It, I, 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 I would say that I've never been a victim, so you
Right.
know, again, back to my chocolate ice cream example. You know, it's an experience that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. So, for me, I think forgiveness is what I've learned through again all my research in the spiritual the spirituality that I've come to appreciate is once you transcend ego, then uh, and the more you're able to do that, then you can let anything go. Um, I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I'm not
That's
a
yeah.
Zen master or a
That's a tough one. That's a
or
tough one.
enlightened being, but I think someone like the Buddha or or even Jesus, these enlightened beings that have come along our history, probably could say yes. But I don't know if there's many out there that could.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Valerie.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I have had my own personal experience with it, not through the clergy, but through something else. And, it's a process. And, person, I could, I could forgive because, not because I'm just like Buddha or anything, but because I had an understanding of, the theoretical plus the experience. But the thing is, what we tell people is the forgiveness is not for them. The forgiveness is really for you. Because if you can't forgive, and you can't find a way to deal with that, you just full of anger. People who don't forgive or who don't go through the process are just so angry, and everything in their lives gets tarnished by the experience in one way or the other. So if you go through the process of healing and you get to the level of forgiveness, it's really about, I'm letting go a lot of this now. It's my past. It's not going to interfere with my future anymore, my present or my future. I can let it go. It was a chapter of my life, but I can close that chapter and I can move on. So that's where I think the forgiveness comes in. Not everyone gets there, but if you can get there, it does give you a sense of peace for yourself, if you can do it. Some people are so sadistic in what they do and so horrific. I don't know if I could forgive. I mean, I think some people have gotten, they get so bad that they've lost their soul.
That's true.
And they just,
yeah. You mentioned the keyword there.
They've lost their soul.
Yeah, Val, I agree. You mentioned the keyword there when you said anger, and I definitely see lots of anger with individuals out there. Many individuals very angry with the world and how it's treated them, and it's really amazing. And I believe we are joined by another soul here. A random caller, are you alive? I can't hear the other guy. Oh, there you are. You're on a delay.
I'm on a delay. Sorry.
It's okay. Did you have a question or anything here?
Well, now.
Oh. Did you forget your question?
No, not at all.
Well, shoot. We're waiting on you.
I know. All right.
There we go.
This couple you have is actually the best thing ever.
Well, they're not a couple. They're mutual friends who just met not long ago.
Really?
Yeah, that's one thing I forgot to mention to both you, Valerie, and Jaimy. When I have people on, automatically people assume they're couples.
Oh, yeah, well,
it's okay.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm just saying it's just something people automatically assume for whatever reason.
We've only known each other,
I'm not worried about that.
2 or 3 months now?
Talking to you
Literally,
is okay.
I think it was December that he emailed to me. We haven't known each other very long. And he's happily married with a little baby, so.
Amazing. Caller, what were you saying?
All right. Now, how people are to each other.
Right.
I'm amazed.
Yes, it's a very interesting time to be alive, and seeing how people react to others' ideologies and their own freedoms of thought and expression and so forth and so forth. But yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah. And also the theory is that all of the people that are trying to promote something, that's okay.
What's okay?
We have to let that. Well, we have to let that go.
Let what go?
Just let them do what they're doing, because we have no control over all of the stuff we're seeing.
Well, of course not. That's the biggest conspiracy of it all, that we have no control. Essentially, we're just here for the ride.
Yeah, good to go. Anyway, bud.
Yeah. Well, I do.
I like your show.
I thank you
I
so
do not
much.
care about the online on that.
Right.
Have a good time.
All right, my friend. Thank you for calling in.
And all these people,
Uh-huh.
best thing.
Yeah, don't worry about them.
Huh?
People will do what they want. Okay.
I know. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Thanks for calling in.
Travel in the desert.
Take care.
Good.
And there he goes, the random caller. Yeah, I'm not quite sure where the caller was calling from, but he liked the show, so that's the good thing, and he put you guys over, so that's important.
Okay,
Excellent.
good.
Thank you.
Yes, he enjoys both of you, which is good. So yes, he mentioned quite a few different things there that definitely do interest me in terms of the uh, psychological aspect of society, in terms of what people choose to be angry at and what they choose to let them become, I guess you could say, have this really big emotional breakdown over things they are told in conversations or what they see on television, even to a point where even something, I guess, a movie, or I guess going back to TV, something they see there, they try to politicize right away. And it causes
yeah.
lots of anger, especially with this last election. Lots of friends were lost, lots of relationships were slightly tarnished, and it's actually very true and very fascinating stuff to sit back and watch it all.
Yeah.
Sorry for that rant there.
Well, yeah. I mean, with my friends, we don't always agree, but we respect each other, and we say, okay, we you're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change your mind, so we're going to agree to disagree and just
Word.
move on.
Yeah.
And this is my own personal thing, my own personal belief. But I think people in general have gotten too thin skin.
Way too thin skin.
I think it's gone so way to the other side of the pendulum that I think we need to get a little bit more to the center. I mean, people need to be more. I think people need to be careful how they speak. I think they have to take other people's feelings and beliefs into consideration. But I don't know. I just see some people just flying off the handle or getting offended over the littlest things now, and it's just, I don't know.
It's insane. Yeah, the littlest things people are just.
It's insane, but yeah.
Yeah, people are just.
It's just too thin skin. Yeah.
Very thin skinned.
In my opinion.
Oh, I'm with you. And it's just, it's like people are looking for whatever to be offended by.
Yeah. That's my belief. I don't think everyone has that, but okay. I'm from a different generation too, probably. I think it's the age thing too, maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm younger than you, and I feel the exact same way.
And Jamie, how do you feel about that?
I know Jamie's quiet over there.
Yeah, I think the world is super polarized right now. It's kind of a interesting time, and sometimes on my commute to that normal job I talked about, you're riding the highway and you see somebody cut across 2 lanes, 3 lanes, cut 2 people off, and I'll look, and one person might just shrug it off, and the other person might freak out completely. And you go, well, the same event just happened to 2 people. They both got cut off by this vehicle, yet one just shrugs it off and one freaks out. So what's the difference there? And it's back to what I mentioned earlier, that the rabbit hole I went down after the research in the last 10 years, the spirituality component and transcending the ego and realizing, back to what Shakespeare once said, things are neither good nor bad. It is our thoughts that make them so.
And
our identification with thought.
Yeah.
And something you talked to me 11 years ago, I would have been like, what are you talking about? I might have been one of those guys in the highway freaking out when I got cut off. When now I just realized, maybe for half a second, my blood will start to elevate, and then I'll realize, Jamie, you're identifying with ego, you're identifying with thoughts, and the impermanence of the world, the impermanence of life, and the time on this planet, I should say, and in this bodysuit that we have, once you realize that, then the life becomes this kind of fun, enjoyable playground and experience, and back to what Valerie said earlier, there's fear and love. And I think so many people get attached to fear, and that's where the polarization comes from. And if we could learn to transcend that fear, realize that where do our fears come from? A lot of it's our programming, that the way we're raised. And, once you realize that, you break free those chains. It's amazing. One of my favorite, I'm a big Bob Dylan fan, but one of my favorite song quotes is by the Eagles. It's the song "Already Gone," where they say, "So often happens we live our lives in chains, and we never even know we have the key." And that's the ultimate truth. And so we're in charge of our own attitudes, or in charge of our own the way we behave, and it's realizing how we identify with our thoughts and our again our programming. Speaking of programming, I heard this amazing study the other day. I don't know if you heard about this one, Michael, but they took rats and they exposed them to wintergreen, and when they exposed the rats to wintergreen smell, they would give electric shock. And what the experiments they did was they shocked these rats, the wintergreen smell and then shock, wintergreen smell and then shock. And then it took so the next generation of rats that were born, they just exposed them to wintergreen. They didn't shock them, but the rats would run in fear of the wintergreen smell. And it took 7 generations.
Wow.
7 generations before the rats could smell wintergreen without having a reaction to this study. And I forget where the study was done, but my point is, we all have programming, and the programming causes fear. And once we realize that, it's that programming and the identification with these certain concepts that cause us to have fear. Until we realize that, we live in this state of constant reaction and polarization and freaking out about stuff that sometimes when we just sit back and look at the big picture, you realize, maybe that's not such a big deal.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. A lot of these issues that we claim to be so passionate about, really, but at the end of the day, there's really nothing to be concerned about. All the answers come from within, and we all go to the same place once it's over, and there are no absolutes. And there is not just one answer to the sum of your questions.
Absolutely.
That's right.
That's very, very strange the way, once you sit back and you watch the human behavior in America, so fascinating, so very fascinating. I'm blown away by it.
Yeah, you can laugh and cry at it, and when you stand back and you, like you said, you're not having the ego thing. You just say, "What is going on here?" And or you laugh, you cry, you say, you get angry, but it's just like what he was saying. If I'm having a good day and I'm feeling I'm not stressed out, or I'm doing my spiritual stuff, I'm meditation, I drive the road. I won't swear underneath my breath or give someone the finger.
Maybe you should, though.
But if I'm not having a good day, I don't usually give people the finger.
Well,
but
there's nothing wrong.
I swear a lot.
Well,
I swear a lot.
There's nothing wrong with
crazy out there.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with expressing yourself. Sometimes some people need to hear those harsh words.
Well, I don't actually do it to them. I just do it underneath my breath.
Ah, okay.
But it doesn't really help. Yeah, it doesn't really help me a whole lot. So I think Jaimy has it right. It's like when I don't feed into that.
Well, I mean, that's
better for me.
That's the conundrum, though, because sometimes it just feels good to be mean. Sometimes.
Oh yeah.
You don't agree? I mean, you have to agree with that. Sometimes you kind of want to troll some people. You want to be mean every now and then. It feels good and it feels right sometimes.
Well, I think when you get on this journey, you want to do that less and less.
Of course.
Yeah, because you don't want people to do it with us or me. So I don't want to do that now. I don't need to do that.
Yes.
Or at least I don't try to do it. Or I mean, I might have my moments. I'm not perfect. I'm not Buddha yet. I always thought I was the second coming, but now that didn't turn out. But
amazing.
But yeah, so I think it's a journey. And I think as you go on, all that other stuff just slips away, like Jaimy said.
Yeah,
it doesn't become important anymore.
Jaimy's right. And life is just so strange, though. We kind of have gone away from things that really do matter by being alive, being conscious, being self-aware. we completely have neglected what's actually important in everyday life. We really have
Mm.
just gone so far away from what's really important. It's again, it's very fascinating and amazing to see what life has become. Especially if we
Mm.
had for an example, if we had like a time machine and we brought back someone who was just from a completely totally different era and we brought them to 2019, they would just be freaking out over how we choose to live our lives and just our everyday existence. It'd just be completely uh, foreign to them. They'd be alienated by it all.
And I think that's what, because I read Jamie's book, and I correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, but I think that's one of the themes or ideas in your book is that all this, a lot of the stuff, if we had that higher knowledge or whatever you want to call it, would go away, and we would live our lives in a very different way, and we'd be less stressed. I don't know, Jamie, if you would agree with
Yeah,
that, but
yes, certainly. I think that the premise of the book, it's a science fiction book with a spirituality component, we'll call it. And really the premise of the book, I think it begs the reader to really look within. I think so often we always look externally for purpose and meaning, and and I think the book is really, or the message that comes through the book is really to look within and ask yourself, what's important to me, what is life all about to me, and what's the big picture. At the end of the day, we're here for maybe at the most 90, 100 years the most, and so in that time, what do we want to accomplish, and what do we think happens after those 90 to 100 years? What do we think happen? And then I think that's one of the most important questions people could ask, and
Right.
very few seldom stop to do that.
yeah, and the importance of people in our lives and appreciating them while we have them and treating them better with respect and love. We sorely need to do that more. We need to do less arguing and yelling and screaming and call name bashing. It's just getting out of hand.
It really
It
is.
creates too much. It creates too much anger and stress, and it's affecting the children and teenagers, and it's just too much. It's
And
just too much.
what's what's fascinating, I was going to say is, this happens often with near death experiencers, as well as contactees. In fact, one of the things they say is, uh, they most often, a lot of folks come out of these experiences, having this profound sense of connectedness with the universe, of peace, and really realizing who they really are, what their essence really is, what their being is, what their what they really are, and in doing so, that they come to this realization that, wow, there's there's so much meaningless stuff here that we deal with on the planet. And so when they have those experiences, there's such a profound peace and and joy that sticks with them for most of their lives. And it's that, to me, that's one of the fascinating aspects of
Yeah.
of these topics.
And of course, people can find that book at Amazon.com. If I remember correctly, I think I saw it there.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
My
check
book
it
is on
out.
Amazon, and yep, absolutely.
Amazing. And of course, in terms of the afterlife, this is another line of questioning that I don't like to do because I don't really like to talk about the paranormal that often. It sort of freaks me out. That's kind of why I don't really cover it as much as I used to. Oh, yes. But in terms of an afterlife, Valerie, I'll ask you first. Do you believe in an afterlife? And Jamie, you can answer when she's done.
Well, I believe our soul releases from our body. What happens to that soul and that part of us that leaves the body and goes somewhere? I don't know what happens after that. I can't say. I do believe that in some people, you say, yeah, they have to be reincarnated. They just have to have been. They have too much knowledge or too many skills they have to have. But all I can say is, all I know is the soul leaves the body and it goes back home. Now, what happens after that, I have no idea. But that's what I believe.
And similarly, I believe, yes, I believe that our soul, our energy, our essence, whatever name you want to put to it, Michael, I believe that it does carry on. I have no, I don't have a notion of what that afterlife might look like, but I do believe that we have our being, our essence, our consciousness, if you will, that does carry on in some form beyond this life.
Understood. My question usually after asking that is, what do we actually do on the other side if there in fact is an afterlife and there is
I guess
no
that's the
reincarnation?
Eat
I
pizza,
don't,
eat
maybe
pizza,
we.
drink beer.
Because that well, I would love
I
that,
have.
but eternity is so long. That's a very long time. That's why I'm thinking, wouldn't we probably be potentially bored by then?
I don't know. I have no. I mean, maybe we just go back as energy and we get recharged. And they say, you read a lot, and well, no, you decide what your next life is going to be. I'm not sure if I believe that or not, but there's a part. Some people believe that you go back and that you decide yourself what lessons you want to learn, and then you just enter, I guess, a baby's body. I don't know how it. I don't know how it starts either.
I've heard.
How does that? I mean,
True.
how does that start?
Yeah, I've heard this in the past, and I'm always just curious how that's even possible.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's a very weird thing to even try to take any kind of grasp in. And I'm sure you agree too, Jamie. It's just eternity again is just such a long, long time.
Yeah, when you start thinking about the vastness of the universe and the eternity and time, is it really linear? And I'm not so sure it's linear to begin with, but you really, the human mind, as it's built, as we are built today, it's something that few can, if any, can really grasp or comprehend. So I don't know what we do on the other side, but I don't think it's anything like this, we'll call it dense world that we live in. I think it's a different type of existence.
I agree with you on that one. That's why I always hear when people say a spirit came and helped me out with this or that. I'm thinking, but why would a spirit want to help you out though? Wouldn't they have something more important to do? You know what I mean?
I think for me that comes into like the universe has this like eons plan, and that everyone plays a part in it, and that special events have to happen for the next thing to happen. But then I also believe in the chaos theory too, that there has to be chaos too. Not everything can be planned.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I kind of get divided on
food
that.
for thought.
But I
Me
think
too.
there are special beings, huh?
Oh, I was just saying food for thought.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just think there's special beings sometimes. Or maybe it's just for them. Maybe the universe just provides it for that certain person for whatever reason we don't know.
Then you get into dimensions and frequencies, and we know there are multiple dimensions. There are 11 or 13 physicists have theorized now, and so scientists are trying to figure out how do we access these dimensions, and if there are other dimensions that we don't, what's in them, and how do they interact with this world, if at all, and and you get into those kinds of topics, which I also find fascinating, and you get into quantum physics and the nature of reality, and what we call matter is basically, when you get down to it, it's atoms. No, it's quarks. No, it's these tiny strings vibrating with a certain frequency that makes up everything. And so if that's true, which we know it to be, then what are we? What are our bodies? And we're just matter, and it's not what we perceive. Everything's a perception.
Right. And going back to when you said you were getting these downloads, these messages, that's one thing that I always wonder about myself in terms of those who claim to be channeling. I'm curious at times to wonder if whatever they're channeling is actually the source of of. I'm curious about the source of who exactly they're channeling, and if they're channeling the entity or whatever they thought or perceived to be that entity. That sounds confusing, but it's just, you hear so much of certain individuals who channel, and you have to ask how valid are their claims
Hmm.
in terms of who they are, I guess, getting downloads from.
Sure.
Because some people believe they're getting messages from, for instance, like an ET, and then some individuals will say that's not exactly an ET, that's the fallen one, that's like a demon or something along that nature. I'm sure you've heard plenty of that before, Jamie.
Yeah, absolutely. In the I wouldn't call myself a channeler, but
Right.
yeah, I mentioned the events when I was young, that occurred to me, and somehow I was receiving, um, we'll call them messages that became a premonition to the 9/11 event, which is my belief. um, and and then also I think the experience with the Ouija board I mentioned and the RDL entity, um, whatever you want to call entity being, and then the reason why I don't really seek out paranormal stuff is because you don't really know what you're dealing with.
What you're
To your
tapping
point, Michael.
into. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you're tapping into. And I asked this question at a conference one time about to a panel, and they said, yeah, they kind of gave me that advice, and I think they're spot on. And then the book, I think, the idea of this book that came to me was a form of whatever you want to call it, download, and it wasn't a dream. It was implanted, and I ignored it for months until one day something happened. So those are three times in my life where something came to me, and we call things negative and positive. I would probably say when I was young, those were positive beings messages, and when I was the book I'd say was positive, and then this RDL entity, probably mostly negative, but again, it's hard
It's
hard to
it
label.
is. It is hard to decipher, and some religious folks, if you told them that, they would say your thoughts are not your own, and these are just demons or spirits talking to you, filling your head.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, before
I'm
the
sure you heard that
poltergeist.
too.
Yeah, and before the poltergeist event happened that I mentioned, the last after months of these experiences and what was happening to me and me becoming more psychic. One of the things, I'll give you an example of how I became psychic. I was young. I was a teenager, and I worked at this concession stand, and selling various things, ice cream and soda and popcorn and all balloons and different things in a local park. And I started to know what people would order before they come. So as they were walking up, I would have their order ready. And the owner of this concession stand, he ran multiple businesses. He had heard about me from the other workers, and they were freaked out by it. Um, and this is an example of just one I'll share. And he came by one day, and he was an older gentleman. He was about 50, and he said, "Hey, I heard you can things about people before they say anything." And I said, "Sure." And he saw a family walking up, maybe about family of about five, or I think there was about four or five. And he said, "What are these people going to order?" And I spotted off exactly what they were going to order. Again, I would just know, cotton candy, popcorn, two Cokes, a Sprite, Diet Coke, and ice cream sandwich. And they ordered exactly what I said. And my
wow.
boss of 50 years old looked at me and looked at them, and he said, "Is this some kind of joke? Do you guys know Jamie here?" And they said, "What are you talking about? We're visiting from New York. We're just passing through. I don't know who this guy is." And I'll never forget the look he gave me, and his face turned white, and he walked away. I don't think he ever talked to me again. Um, so that was one of the things that one of the things I'll share. And so those are the things that kind of were happening to me. But leading up to the poltergeist event, I went to the church, and I spoke to my local priest, and I told him what was going on. And his response was, uh, all the things I have described are events that lead up to when the church performs an exorcism, basically
Oh,
saying that
wow.
there's possession of the dwelling, and then the next step it could be possession of the body. And he said I was in grave danger, so forth and so on. But then
Mm.
that night, I told this entity that I had never seen you, and I want to see you, and that's when I experienced the poltergeist event that night. And
Amazing.
yeah, it was amazing. And
And
in the
Wow.
go ahead.
yes, hold that thought really quickly. There's another gentleman who is on the line. I think he might have a question for either you or me. I believe this is Drew. Are you there, Drew?
Michael, I have no questions for you. You answer all my questions every time I ask them.
Amazing.
Okay, Jaimy, got a question for you.
Sure.
Actually, I got two questions. First, I'm at your webpage. Actually, I'm at Amazon looking at your book. First question, the dog, the lab, is he or she still around?
No,
No,
he's
golden
passed.
retriever, I'm
That was-
sorry.
Yeah, it's a golden retriever, and his name was Bailey, and he has since passed. He was a great dog.
Oh, I'm sorry. Secondly,
Thanks.
and you may have already answered this because I was away from the computer, but in the bio, you talk about how you have faced and escaped death on several occasions, and those experiences, they've provided you information for the book. Could you elaborate on those, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. I mean, those are much more worldly events, I'll call them. I've never had a near-death experience, but I've been held at gunpoint twice in my life, gun right in my face, and I think those experiences kind of jolt you and really help you wake up sometimes. Again, much more worldly type experience, but those are the two events that happened to me that where fortunately I was unharmed.
Yeah, it's never fun having a gun pointed to you. I know from experience.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. Anything else? Go ahead.
No, that's it, Michael. Thank you. As always, a wonderful show. And I'm going to say hello to Gunner just because he may be annoying some people this evening.
He's very angry, but that's who he is in life. A very angry individual.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Take
you for
care.
the questions.
Thank you. And there he goes. That was Drew. Give him a round of applause for the call
Thank you,
there.
Drew.
That was a great call. And yeah, we were back in our conversation there before he called in, and I cut you off. I apologize.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Was talking about the church and how they said I was in grave danger, and I saw
Right.
the poltergeist event. And I was about to say, it's so funny that Drew called that question. I was about to say, one of the most amazing things about that, and other people have said this, is during that poltergeist event, I could sense the presence of the being in the room, and I've never experienced fear like that prior or since in my life, and it was a fear that was just not the fact that there was a entity in the room, but it was deep rooted, and it was more fear than I had been held at gunpoint twice in my life, and the fear that I experienced at that moment was more heavy than those other two, what we'll call worldly events.
It's definitely puts things into proper perspective after something like that.
Yes.
Oh
Absolutely.
yes. Oh yes.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing stuff, really. And Val,
Yeah.
I was curious more about this event coming up in Rhode Island. When exactly is this event going down for those out there who are in the
Okay.
area? Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be the last weekend in April. So it's going to be Friday, April 26th, Saturday, April 27th, and Sunday, April 28th. It's going to be at the Crown Plaza Marriott in Warwick, Rhode Island, which is only 3 miles from the T.F. Green Airport. So it's very close to the airport, and it's near Providence, Rhode Island. So it's like 10 minutes away from Providence. So it's very easy to get to. It's for those 3 days. We have a packed program from morning to night. And we have so many different speakers on different topics. Everyone's going to come out there learning something new and having, they're going to have speakers that they're going to love. There's not going to be anyone who's going to be disappointed if they stay the weekend. Because of the quality and the experience of our speakers, they're going to enjoy themselves. They're very good speakers. They're very entertaining, and they're very thorough, and they're very ethical, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there's a few names on there that I do recognize. Some of them I don't, but for the most part, there
Yeah.
are names that I do recognize indeed. And some very good lecturers there showing up.
Absolutely. We have
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, Val.
Tim
Sorry.
Weisberg is going to be an MC, and he does he has his own show, Spooky South Coast, I believe it's called. And he's going to be our MC. And we have Paul Eno, and he's going to be on Saturday, and he has his own show, Beyond the Paranormal. He's been around in the field for like 30 years. So he's very well known. We have Joshua Cutchin and Tim Renner. They have both written books. Both of them are interested in Bigfoot. They're actually going to be doing a book together, but they also have different interests also. We have Colin Schneider, who's called the Crypto Kid. He got into cryptozoology as a very young child. He knew what he wanted to do, and he's the youngest researcher that the field has known, and writer, and he has his own blog. We have so many wonderful guests. I mean, I could go on and on.
Nice.
It's on the website. We have it's on the website. We have we're finalizing the program, the times and dates. It needs a little bit more tweaking, but I think by the end of, if not this week, by the end of next week, we're going to have the final program with the times and the dates, and that'll be up on the website also.
Very nice. And Jaimy, we'll take it to you in a moment here. Someone by the name of Gang of Four in the chat room wants to know if any bands are playing or if there will be any eats there.
Eat?
Yeah, I think he wants to eat food there.
We were going to have a dance, but we're not. We have a special event that's going to be going on. I can't talk about it right now.
No dance.
But we're going to have a special. But we're going to have a special event that's going to. So we're going to cancel the dance.
How dare you?
I think the special. I know.
How
but I think the special event, when they hear about it, it's going to make up for it.
Okay.
Big time.
And we do have dinner. We have dinner on Saturday evening. It's a separate ticket. Yeah. The menu is on the website under the program events page. So we do have a full dinner on Saturday evening. That and we expect most of the speakers will be there as well. We do have breaks for lunch. We won't be serving lunch, but there are so many great restaurants too within the area as well. So Rhode Island's an awesome place to visit. And, I'm super excited about this conference being, researching topics of 10 years. As Val mentioned, the breadth of the speakers and the quality, Val mentioned some of the speakers. We also have Tom Reed, which is fantastic. We're going to be showing the Bridgewater Triangle film with Aaron Cadieux there. He's the award-winning filmmaker for that documentary. So many phenomenal speakers across all the topics.
Very cool. And Jaimy, going back to some of your research throughout the years, what exactly would you say is the most strangest and of all the things you've researched?
That's a tricky question. I would say, some things I've steered away from. And I guess strange is kind of relative. It's beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, it's very subjective.
See, that's what I said.
Yeah, I think the near-death experience stuff is pretty wild. But I'd also say probably the ufology. The ufology is probably what interests me the most, and the experience I had at Mount Adams in Washington State. And being a skeptic, another story there is I'll share with you is I was there for a full week, and the first night I saw Kraft. I remember I started counting, and after a few, I stepped away and kind of sat down and had to do this is after 5 years of doing research. When I really saw some Kraft, it really shook me, and really changed your paradigm of hey, wow, this is real. It becomes from a textbook exercise researching and to actually physically experiencing it. And then that whole weekend, that was a Thursday evening. I saw Kraft, throughout the weekend there, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But even after seeing, and I counted over 100 that I saw around Mount Adams over those 4 days. The last day there was no alcohol involved. I did not drink any alcohol during this time. I drank only water. And the last day I was still skeptic, and I thought, could be this some kind of light show, some kind of trick? And the gentleman who runs has the property there at the base of Mount Adams, James Gillen, remember it was about 10 p.m. on Sunday evening, the last day I was there, and he said, I'm going to bed, I'm cashing it in. And there were people in the field, maybe about 50 to 75, and slowly they started ticking off. And I said, I'm going to be the last person out here tonight because, whatever this experience is, I want to make sure no one's playing games, still kind of the engineering mindset. And I remember it was about 3 a.m. on Sunday, or Monday morning now, I should say. And I walked this field, and I made sure there was one person left who had fallen asleep. And I almost stumbled into her. She woke up, and she kind of walked off. And I was the only one in the field, and it was about 3 a.m. And I looked up, and I was, consciously having thoughts saying, whatever these craft are, I was saying thank you. And at that point, a craft, probably one of the lowest ones I'd seen all weekend, flew above me and lit up above me. And that moment, there was that's when I tasted the chocolate ice cream. That's when I wasn't abducted by any means, but I felt this profound peace and harmony in the beings, whatever were in this craft. It was telepathic message, just kind of, it wasn't any words, it was just, peace. And it just took off. And I just remember leaving the field at 3 a.m. and got on a plane the next day. And from that point on, that's when I went from researching to, I would say, being an experiencer.
Pretty wild stuff.
Yeah.
It definitely will change your perspective on things. I recall seeing a couple lights out here, and I live not too far from a naval facility. So
Yeah.
I kind of rolled it out. Perhaps that's some sort of plane that the general public has no knowledge of. I sort of thought of it that way. But then there was another experience that I wasn't around for, and that was with both my parents, who saw this strange, I guess my dad described it as like this transparent squid in the sky. And I thought, Dad, are you on something? But my dad, he's straight and narrow, hasn't consumed any alcohol or done any drugs, nothing of that nature. So it really freaked out my mom, actually. After after that, it brought her back around to being sort of religious for a good while there.
Yeah. What's fascinating about the craft that I saw around Mount Adams, and this, again, if you were to Google ESETI and look at some of the YouTube videos or the footage that they have on their website, you'll see some of the stuff that I'm talking about. But basically, the craft interact with the people on the ground. What I mean, they what they call them power-ups, but essentially not all the craft that I observed, but several of them will basically fly over and just light up the sky and become this big glowing bright. It's not a star, it's not a satellite, it's not a plane. And again, if you were to Google these, you'd see what I'm talking about. And interaction is fascinating.
It really is fascinating, and oddly enough, for a while, UFOs there weren't exactly the most happening subject. It really kind of turned around once the show Ancient Aliens came into fold back in 2010, I believe it was. That was like the proverbial shot in the arm for the subject. Would you agree, Val, there? I think you do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. And then X-Files, too. I think that popularized it a lot.
Sure.
For me, I've never seen one. I've never been, but I believe in them because this Earth is much older than what people, either textbooks or whatever. It's much, much older. And I think that we have a much older history. And I think that other beings had a part in that. I don't know how much or in what way, but that's my belief. And I think that, they probably do come and check up on us, or that we're still involved with them in some way. We just don't know. I think there's some kind of amnesia going on, or I'm not sure about that. I just think that something happened and that they were part of it. And for whatever reason, we just don't know the whole story yet.
And how do you feel about that, Jaimy? Yeah, I mean, I agree with. I hear some music. Oh, can you hear me, Michael?
Yeah, I was just playing the X-Files.
Oh, yeah, great. Sorry. No, I agree with a lot. A lot of what Val just said there, and fully agree with what she said.
Yeah, it's very true though. The whole TV show and other shows like it for other subjects, it really has helped the popularity for certain things really get going. And of course, the X Files that really did help lots of individuals um, back in the early '90s.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
certainly. And
Ancient,
the other thing too
it,
that's come about recently too, it's not really a TV show, and I agree with Ancient Aliens, but um, in December of 2017, I'm sure you're aware the New York Times front page article was the story about the incident off the coast of San Diego,
Right.
where U.S. Navy pilot, chased they called it a tic tac object. They had been following it for a few days on a U.S. aircraft carrier, and then they released the footage of it, and it was in the New York Times front page, and everyone thought, wow, this is disclosure, this is it, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the world caught up in their daily stuff, just said, okay, whatever. A U.S. Navy pilot who's been on CNN, who's been on major media outlets now since then, and telling a story, and I think the world is just so caught up in their daily routine that you know but I do think that those kinds of stories and disclosure by mainstream media are certainly popularizing the subject as well.
Right. And of course, you are referring back to the media frenzy, rather, that went on from, I think the footage came from the To the Stars Academy with Tom DeLonge, of all people.
That's correct. Yeah. Yep. He I think got my understanding is he got the footage, and the New York Times published it in
Right.
December of 2017. Correct.
Yeah, that's pretty wild that that story even made any kind of headlines, let alone national headlines, and it was talked about all over media media platforms, a lot of the mainstream platforms, which completely took me back. I was surprised to see any of that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I heard someone say, I read an article that said, if that object had a Chinese or a Russian flag on the tail, it would certainly be a lot more people's attention. But because it didn't, everyone just goes about their business.
Right. Right. Yes.
yeah.
It was interesting though. We've never seen anything like that happen in terms of the whole mass media frenzy there.
Yeah, and to me, whether you believe in the topic or not, UFOs, there's other, nuclear launch facility base commanders who have come forward, talked about Kraft flying over the facilities and rendering the nuclear missiles useless. But even the story off of December 2017, whether you believe in the topic or not, you got to wonder, it's a matter of national security if there are these objects that are flying at speeds that we supposedly have no technology to do. Why wouldn't people, taxpayers, be concerned about, hey, what's going on over our airspace?
Right.
Yeah.
Our government spent a big they paid some big money there. That was a big paycheck they cut there to get these studies going.
Absolutely. ATIP. Yeah.
The sad part though is that the general public will never be privy to any of this information though.
Well, I think when I went to Alien Con in September, some of the speakers who are much more much more well known in the field and have a lot more knowledge than I do, of course, they were saying that they felt that it was coming. They felt that it was going to happen relatively soon because more and more people were talking about it, more people were demanding it. Again, I don't know how much of that is, what they want to believe and how much it would be true or whatever, but they're talking about it more and they're asking for more information and they want more information and they want the government to be more open about it. And the government slowly over time, from what I can see, has slowly released more and more experiences of pilots and other, especially pilots, or maybe people on ships and stuff who have seen these and have made reports. So I think if there's going to be we very well could have one. that it's
Yeah.
all going to come out, and we're going to have, like Jamie said a while back, is that our whole way of life is going to be shook up, and
That may
it's
happen.
because of this whole new knowledge.
And I
And
think it's a
these beings,
slow.
we're actually going to see these beings.
I think it's a slow progression too. I got into a little bit of debate with Richard Dolan a few years back at a conference, and I made the comment that I said, I think I think even with disclosure, people just don't. I wouldn't say don't care, but they're so caught up with, okay, well, I still got to pay my mortgage, I still got to get up every day and pay my bills. So what if there are UFOs flying around? I think that's a lot of the way people feel, and the way the analogy I use is, I'll use back to the world is not round, it's flat. If in 1492 you own a little bakery in the middle of France, and you find out some people sailed across and they discover the world's not flat, it's round. Okay, sure, but you still got to get up every day at 4 in the morning and open up your bakery and make your bread. And so, how does that impact you? It's not till hundreds of years later when we have this global civilization that has impacted the world. So, I think disclosure is kind of like that. I think, hey, we're not alone, but it's going to permeate through society, and again, it's going to be this slow kind of slow progression rather than this kind of shock and, oh my gosh, now there are UFOs here and we're going to fly to Zeta Reticuli and meet them. So I that's my belief.
With Elon Musk and all the things that he's creating, it's too bad we weren't born at a much later date to see some of these things really come into play and help, I guess, civilization, and to help the ease of our traveling chores, I guess you could say, because traveling is a bit of a chore.
Especially
Yeah, I
nowadays.
know, huh?
It really is,
Yeah.
especially nowadays, having to go through TSA and getting felt up
Yeah.
on.
Mhm.
Not a great experience.
Yeah. The one thing I had, if I ever see a God, when I, pass over, I'm going to say, God, the one thing I really disagree with is you gave us amnesia between each lifetime. It would have been much better if we had remembered our previous lifetimes so we could learn from our mistakes and not keep making them over and over and over again. I was going somewhere with that. I lost it. But anyway.
It'll come back. That happens to me too.
Yeah, I'll come back.
Yeah, as we go along here, I'm sure that original thought will sink back in there.
Yeah.
It's the way it goes.
I know I was going to make a point with that, but I forget what it was. But anyway.
Yeah, either way, I definitely understand where you're going with it and can agree full-heartedly about that. And of course, Jaimy, you were always born here, correct?
Always born here. Yeah, I'm originally from Massachusetts, born and raised in Massachusetts, and lived in New England majority of my life. I lived in California for a couple years, but yeah, I'm
Born and
from
raised here. Okay.
Yeah.
And Valerie, same thing, right? You were born here?
Well, I was born in New Jersey, but my family moved to Rhode Island
Okay.
when I was about 1.5, 2. So I'm pretty much from Rhode Island.
Okay, I figured
Yeah.
both of you were most likely, obviously, born here. But Jaimy, I thought since you are Portuguese, correct? You have.
That's correct. Yes, my parents they immigrated to the United States. Or my
Okay.
dad did, I should say. My mom was U.S. citizen, and I was born here. Portuguese parents, and speak a little Portuguese, and I love Portuguese food, and absolutely.
So when I pronounced your name earlier, did I say it correctly?
Jaimy Mauricio. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, nice. I was calling you Jaimy Mauricio.
Yeah. Yep. That's perfect.
Doing the whole accent, Spanish accent there.
Yeah, that's okay. It's Mauricio is fine.
Perfect. I just like to do it that way. It's more enjoyable for the listener out there. They say, "Oh, look at that! He's trying to get fancy with it now."
I appreciate that. Thanks, Michael.
No problem, no problem. And my goodness, this conference is coming up, and you have all these great speakers, and I'm just wondering, what is the parking going to be like there? That probably won't be good.
It's a great. It's a fantastic venue.
They have fantastic parking. So
Yeah.
they would have no problem with parking. If they have several different lots all around the hotel itself, plenty of parking. They have lots of events there, sometimes multiple events at the same time. So parking will not be a problem. You might have to walk a little distance, how far you have to park, but other than that, you'll find a parking space very easily.
That was kind of satirical to mention parking, but yes,
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
I thought it would be literal.
No, it was perfect though. That was perfect though.
Yeah, a couple things about the event. If I could just mention, Michael,
Go
I'd
ahead,
just
Jamie.
say that it's it's close to the airport. Again, this is as you mentioned earlier, Michael. It's a first of a kind event for Rhode Island. That I have attended conferences in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, in the area, but this is a first of a kind event for Rhode Island, or at least in quite some time. And again, close to the airport, phenomenal speakers. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's folks should definitely come out and check it out. The other thing I want to mention too is that we have the early registration now through the end of February 28th. So for the whole
And
entire
that'll probably
week,
be extended probably a little bit.
yeah, for the whole entire weekend right now, it's
Yeah.
only $60. The
Not
price is
bad.
expected to go up as we get closer. Yeah, $60 for the whole all 3 days, and then you can buy 2 day. If you only want to attend for 2 days, you can buy tickets for just 2 days, which is currently $45, and then for 1 day is a $30 price. So and on the website there's a link, x-filersunited.com. There's a link to the tickets which are purchased through Eventbrite. So and again, the list of speakers is on the website. And again, it's going to be really exciting. I'm super psyched. And the other thing, Val is the main coordinator here, and I've always thought it would be awesome to organize a conference, but I never really took the leap. So when Val did, and I was able to help her out, I'm excited for this. But one of the things she's mentioned is that this year we're hoping to be super successful and then be able to start planning for this to be an annual event. So we'd love to see everyone come out and join us and experience the event, and then hopefully turn this to an annual event with some phenomenal speakers every year.
And that, of course, will be on Friday, April 26th to Sunday, the 28th. I believe, correct, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to look at the paper. I just kind of memorized that one. Sometimes I randomly memorize things and I pull them out of my what here on the show, and it's kind of amazing at times. I give myself credit. I have to, because no one else will. I mean, if
Isn't it nice when you
gotta
can
do
find
that.
yourself?
you really sometimes have to be your own cheerleader and put yourself over
Exactly.
because other people are not going to do it for you.
Nope, you're right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's just something I learned doing this. No one. A lot of people think a lot of people are helping me do this or that, and the reality is it's just mostly me here. No one is actually
Oh,
helping me
wow.
do most of these things at all.
But it's fantastic.
Wow,
It's
that's
people like you, Michael, that are helping the community and getting information about these types of topics and these events out to the world. So it's great work that you do.
Well, I really do appreciate you saying that. I do try to help, even those that I have offended in the past. I definitely try to help those people out too if they ever need it.
That's
Absolutely.
nice.
Yeah, and I've offended a lot of people, by the way. Oh yeah, but it comes
Oh,
with
well.
turf, though. It comes with with the territory here, especially if you
Mm.
want to speak your mind and you're not afraid of any sort
Yeah.
of backlash or ridicule,
Yeah.
any of that stuff. I really don't care. I don't care what other
Yeah.
people think of me. This is my
Mhm.
show, and I'm
Exactly.
gonna do whatever I want with it. And there's plenty of people
Exactly.
who love the way it goes already, so that's not a problem with me.
Good.
Oh yes.
That's the best way to, because really, it's your show. You don't like it? Don't call in. Don't listen
Don't
to
listen. Yeah, exactly. Don't be here. Don't message me at 4 a.m.
it. Exactly.
All of the above, indeed. And of course, Jamie and Valerie, everyone had the impression that you were a couple here as soon as I announced you guys would be on. Again, I still think that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
could
that's
be
funny. I mean, I guess everyone's in that kind of, they always think that, but nope, we're not.
Yeah, you guys barely
Yeah.
even met.
Yeah.
Like I
true.
said, I think he emailed me in December, and so it's what, 3 months? little 2.5 months. We actually, I've gotten to know Jaimy a little bit more tonight, and we haven't had much time to really talk about a lot of stuff, background stuff. It's been all about the conference. So I actually learned
You learned
a
a
lot
lot.
about Jaimy tonight that I had no idea about. So,
Amazing. Well, that's the great part of the show. You learn something all the time from everyone here on the show. Even the callers you learn something from.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Indeed. And this is going to be really random here, but I have to ask you this. Well, not really ask you, but tell you. One of the things that people get really offended with me about is how I perceive, hold on for this one, how I perceive Michael Jackson and how I sort of bury him every now and then and think that there was some foul play involved with our friend Michael Jackson. People get real pissed off at me over that. I don't know why.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny because people get angry about, like, back to the craziest stuff. One of the
Yeah, there we go.
one of the authors I've come to
Back
one
to
of
that.
the authors I've come to appreciate. Hello?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. I would say one of the authors I've come to appreciate is Eckhart Tolle. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he writes a lot of spiritual books, and he has a Facebook and a blog, of course. And one time he was saying, you post something, and usually, out of 50 or so, 49 are positive, and there's one person that comes back and says, how dare you, and they're so angry and so mad. And he
Yeah.
says, all I did was talk about universal peace and love, and
There's
and they come back
always
so
one.
angry. So
Yeah, there's always
so
someone that's going to get so angry and bitter, Jaimy.
absolutely.
Well, that. Oh, I'm sorry, but I believe in that human experience is dualism. So if I said the sky was blue, there's going to be somebody who's going to contradict me, because the human life is dual, and when you get out of that, when you transcend that stuff, you see how all that division, decisiveness, and separating yourself is
Right.
nonsense. You don't need to do that. And that, I think that's what Jaimy was also talking about. That same theme is that in the human life, until we can rise above that dualism, we don't get very far. We don't get to the other side where we say, this is all nonsense. We don't have to live this way. That's just my 2 cents.
I'm with you on that. Very, very interesting conversation we are having here, and it's almost time for us to, I guess, descend here pretty soon. But before I do, I still do have a couple more questions for both of you, if you guys are still in here.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. Sure, I do.
I am, yeah.
Okay, well, random question here. Do either one of you have to wake up early tomorrow? I'm just don't want to take up too much of your time.
I don't have any plans set time to get up tomorrow, so I'm fine. But Jaimy, I don't know.
I don't. I have a 1-year-old, so she'll probably get up around 7:30, 7:38. But that's fine. I'm good usually with between 6 to 7 hours. So
Okay,
I'm
perfect. Okay, a couple more things here. And you talked about 9/11 in your book, Jaimy, your first book there. And I'm curious to know if you, because I haven't read your book, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't read it. I want to read it, but I haven't gone around to it just yet. There's other books that have been sent to me that I need to get through first. And they're books that, to be honest with you, I kind of didn't even want to read them, but kind of forced to. Kind of forced to. But going back to 9/11, this event that happened, do you still recall where you were that morning?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. Of course, I remember 9/11. I was actually at work
Okay.
when the event happened, and I recall it very, very clearly. Um, and the thing about 9/11 is, I mentioned it briefly in my book. It's kind of a passing thing. The book is not about 9/11, but it is mentioned because it's present day. And
Correct.
and yeah, one thing, the thing I mentioned earlier about 9/11 when I was 11, 12, the message I received basically was, um, whatever you want to call these beings. I don't have a name for them, but I remember these visions of pure destruction, fire. I remember seeing all this, and um, the story was this event's going to happen on the Earth, um, and not far from where I am. And it after that point, the Earth the Earth people the way we live is going to change, and that progression is going to happen rapidly. And you'll see a man's name that will be associated with this event, and it was almost like this name had come to me, and the first name was Zachariah, and then the last name I remember telling the one person who I had told these visions or these thoughts to, the last name has an M, an S, an I, and I said maybe Smith, and I couldn't make out the last name, but it's Zachariah with an M, an S, and an I. And I remember when 9/11 happened, and they had captured Zachariah Musawi. I knew immediately
Wow.
that was the vision, and that was the person that was being communicated to me.
That's pretty trippy.
Yeah, and that's when I
Wow.
called my cousin, who we were adults at the time, and we hadn't spoken about this one since we were young kids. We were really kids, for that matter. And I called him and I said, "Hey, you see the news? And you see who they caught?" He said, "Yeah, it's him, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah," and he knew exactly. He hadn't forgotten. I hadn't forgotten all those years. Um, and so that was the one connection 9/11 that I was referring to earlier.
Very unusual. And Valerie, same question for you. Do you still recall where you were that faithful morning?
Yeah, I was at home. I actually was away from work for a couple of days because my car needed to work done on it. So I was home and I was watching that Today Show, and they talked about it. And then I actually remember seeing second plane go into the tower. They had the tower on, and the second plane went into it. It was
Right.
like that whole next few days was surreal. It was just totally surreal.
Wasn't that
You're
weird?
just glued to the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just glued to the TV set. You're watching all these different things. You're seeing all the. It was just horrific, and it was just like, again, it was surreal. It was almost like you just couldn't imagine. You saw it, it was there, but you just couldn't. You just couldn't. Like, how could this happen?
You couldn't
You know?
fathom that it happened. Yeah.
Exactly. I think it was just so tragic. And so I remember it very clearly. It was it affected the whole world, not just the United States. I think the whole world has been affected by it in some way.
Oh yes. That was a very unusual time in our nation's history. Especially afterwards, next coming months of that, it seemed like everybody was really nice and united to some extent for a while there. I know you recall that feeling. It did seem that way. It seemed like everybody was nice. Even in New York, people were being nice to each other, which is rare. So
Yeah,
but
they were.
mhm.
I think that's the good of humanity, that people can put aside for a little while and get to the healing and working with people, getting them safe and sound, and watching those firemen going into the
Yeah.
burning buildings and everything. I think that's the best side of human nature, is coming together. Then after about a few days, then the anger and the accusations and all that
Yes.
stuff comes out. But for a little while, people want to work together, and they put everything aside to help people.
Correct.
So,
And just in that moment of time, Jamie, Jamie and Val, just for that pocket in time, I'm just wondering, what happened to that? Why don't we have that sort of all being united and being friendly once again towards each other? It's just, it makes me think, why can't we have that again?
It's so funny you mentioned that, Michael, because you mentioned 9/11. My book, I talk about it. The piece I talk about was exactly what you described. Is
Ah,
it talks about how 9/11 happened and how New Yorkers even became friendly, and people just kind of realize, hey, what's really important, and that whole kind of that mentality. And that's the only reference I make in my book about 9/11. And there's a quote in my book, if I may read it, it's really brief.
Go ahead, Jamie.
On this topic, and in the quote that, then again, this came to me, is the quote goes, "So often it is only through trial and tribulation that we come to the full realization and appreciation of life. Why is it that so many seldom come into this awareness in the absence of such trials? Perhaps it is because we spend most of our time asleep, and it is only when these trials come along that we are awakened from our slumber. Stay awake."
I like that.
Nice.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really nice.
very
Thanks
Yeah.
for letting me do
Yeah,
that.
I think.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I
Val.
think when I just think part of that too is that when you're coming together, you're coming together for a higher purpose. But once you get back to your mainstream life, and you have to pay the bills, you have to pay the mortgages, you're going through a divorce, you know what I mean?
Oh
All
yeah.
that stuff just kind of erodes. You got to deal with this other stuff that got to be dealt with, whether you like it or not. But it kind of takes away. You don't have that higher purpose anymore. Now it's you're trying to live your life the best you can, and there's a lot of fear based and worry and fear involved for most people in some way and somehow, and I think that's what takes over, and then that's when it all kind of goes away.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly again, but
Mhm.
it takes a tragedy to bring us together. That's the most saddening part of it all.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
And,
you
and I,
can count too many times when good things got put people together. At least not for a long period of time, maybe.
yeah, there's tragedies I think really, jolt people and to really back to, waking up and realizing, whoa, there's more to life than just a rat race. I once heard the problem with the rat race is
Mm.
at the end you're still a rat whether you
Yeah.
want to lose. So I think these tragedies come along and they really shake people to the core. And when they do that, they kind of snap out of that kind of mundane kind of. Alan Watts once said we're all insecure, we're all living compulsively. We kind of snap out of that compulsive kind of living when those tragedies come along and we connect, and then things get good again, and we go back to our compulsive ways and forget.
Mhm. Yep.
Oh yes.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
Life hits the hardest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all know that indeed. And of course, we have seen another paradigm in terms of the political spectrum where politics has now become the new religion for a lot of individuals out there. I thought we could test the waters here on this subject. I would love to discuss this with both of you here. In terms of Donald J. Trump, we've never seen a more um, polarizing figure. We've never seen something like this before. It's been a pretty goddamn entertaining couple years now. I got to be honest with you. First of all, I'm not affiliated to any political party nor group. I'm completely independent and an individual, far away from those things. I don't want to be a part of any group whatsoever. But I've always been fascinated with politics and religion and psychology.
Mm.
Those things
Mhm.
I've always been pretty obsessed with. And for a long time, I wanted to get into the world of politics. I knew a couple people. I even helped along with a few campaigns that I can't talk about here. But
Mhm.
I was pretty deep in, to be honest with you. But after a while, I kind of learned that a lot of it is just BS. I could go on for I could talk about that till the cows come home. And that's one of the reasons why I got in trouble with the professor at one of the places there. And well, that kind of shifted all my thoughts and perspectives clearly away from the political realm. However, these last couple years, maybe the last 6, 7 years, I'd say, I got deeply back into it. And now it's just, this has been pretty damn entertaining. And I'm not a big Trump supporter at all. However, I do acknowledge that he is our president, and I definitely would help, or I guess you could say, boost anyone that takes the seat by default, simply because they're the president. So, I can't really go and bury the president. That's just. But I'm curious how both of you feel about his run so far.
Well, I can say early on, before when he was like starting to talk about being a candidate, an early candidate, I thought I'm very disappointed because I didn't know much about his background. I didn't know about all the fraud. I didn't know about all the bad businesses.
Right.
I only heard the good stuff about him. And so I said, well, maybe this is pretty good. Maybe this will shake things up. Maybe this will help the economy. He was amazing. I thought he was going to be a breath of fresh air. Oh God, was I wrong?
Amazing.
And then when he criticized John McCain,
Oof, yeah.
a prisoner of war, that was it for me. You do not do that to a prisoner of war. You do not say that to a prisoner of war. In my opinion,
Yeah,
I will not tolerate that.
I'm with you in that.
When
Mhm.
I said, yeah, that turned me off. And I said, if you do that, and then he was said a couple of things about some women and stuff. I said, no, that turned me totally off.
I see. Yeah,
And
there's.
and now and
Oh,
then
go ahead. Sorry.
and now that and then he got elected, which really surprised me that he got as far as he did. And now we know that, which has probably been true the whole long, but that's why he's so polarizing, is that a third of our population in the United States, about a third, maybe 20%, is what I would call, fascist or bigoted, racist, all that stuff.
Right.
And they're not going to change. And other people are just like just continue to go to the other spectrum till you get the socialists or whatever you want to call them now. So that's just like the bell curve kind of thing. So my question is, how are we going to live together? Again, how are we going to live together? How are we going to try to? Maybe we can't change each other's minds, but how are we going to make this America work for everybody?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
We can't have everyone's beliefs if they're going to hurt other people. I think that's the bigger question for me, anyway.
Yeah, that's the conundrum.
How are we going to do that?
No doubt. How will we do that? And Jamie, go ahead if you have any take on this.
Yeah, I'll just comment. Again, politics is one of those polarizing things that I try not to get too excited about. I will say about the president. One of the things I really value in leaders is the level of emotional intelligence. And I don't know that he has much emotional intelligence, the ability to connect with people. I think sometimes some of his rants seem like that of a child, and I think from the left and the right, they're both some of the rants that I've seen, and the war with the media is just kind of out of control between the president and the media, and it's a distraction. I think the executive branch could be a lot more efficient than what it has been. However, I think he does say some things that sometimes are spot on, but he says a lot of things that are kind of way out in left field. So, for example,
Right.
I think I'm in favor of fiscal conservative policies. I think the trade has been out of balance. So the fact that he's trying to rebalance the trade and some of the trade wars we're seeing in the tariffs and what he's looking to do, I think some of that does make sense. But I really would like to see more more fiscally conservative type of policy. But overall, I think he could be and the branch could be a lot more effective than it has been, and I just think that one thing I will say is that we've stayed out of a war under his presidency so far,
Right.
so that I'm appreciative of, and so. And perhaps he's making progress in North Korea, whether it's progress or whether it's just smoke and mirrors, I'm not sure yet. But it seems like some things have been a little more neutralized than they were when he first took office. That seemed a little bit more heated, especially with places like North Korea. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, we definitely will see how it plays out. There's lots of things about Trump that I like and lots of things that I dislike, but that goes with every human being out there. I definitely don't agree with everyone out there. I mostly disagree with everyone. Yeah, that's just the reality of myself, though. I'm just
At least
a bit of a hard
yourself,
ass.
though. It's good.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a hard ass. What can I say? But Trump, though, he's just well. First of all, let's go back to Obama really quickly here. Obama won because he was likable. That's
Yeah.
something that most people don't even comprehend. Just that simple little fact there. He was a likable guy, And a lot of people thought, okay, he's likable, we relate to him, bada bing, bada boom, you're in. And for Trump, well, he didn't get over because he was likable. He got over because of the style of which he presented himself and his ideas and the way he really talked to his audience. He made it seem like he was talking to those individuals right in front of them. He,
Yeah, he was very
uh-huh,
good at that. At
very good.
really targeting his people around him. I don't know if it's really him. He had good people. Well,
Good administration.
he had people around him
Hmm.
who probably were very good at targeting the people he was going to talk to and address and hook up with. And I think that was for a campaign. That's a smart move. I didn't want him to win, but regardless, his campaign worked because it was targeted, and he knew how to talk to his different audiences,
Right.
and that's how he won.
Yeah, he really embodied the authoritarian archetype that really just resonated to a lot of the country. And it was very interesting to see how some people took to him. And of course, he has his diehard fans out there who believe and hang on to every single thing he says.
Yeah,
They,
they don't
mhm,
care what he does or what they don't care, and they just like him. And as long as he's there, they're going to like him no matter what he does.
correct. And
I guess.
again, I don't want to seem like I hate the president or dislike him. Again, he is doing what I guess what needs to be done for our current time. And I wouldn't have wanted Hillary to have been the president of the United States. You probably think differently yourself. I don't know how you feel about that, Jamie, but I think Trump was the rightful candidate for the job for this climate that we have today. I'm not sure if 2020, if folks agree with that, that might change coming up here in the next election. I'm not sure though. I don't know how you guys feel about this next coming election, but I am curious what you think.
Me personally, I think the next election, I think the approval rating for the president's been pretty down after the government shutdown. I
Oh
do
yes.
think, though, I think a lot will hinge on the economy. If the economy is booming, when it comes to reelection, he may have a shot of reelection. But I think the fiasco with the wall and the government shutdown certainly didn't help him. So, we very well could see a Democrat there. But I think a lot will hinge on my opinion, how the economy's doing at that point.
Interesting. Go ahead, Val.
Well, I think it's the difference in a campaign. It's going to be who they believe can make it better. So in the past campaign, they thought he was going to make it better, and maybe he has in some ways. I'm not quite convinced of that, but some people said like with the trade, although I've heard different stories. See, that's another thing. You don't always know what to believe or which is credible and not.
That's the
Sometimes
problem, yes.
yeah, I mean, you get all these experts saying different, and the dualism again. You have, one expert say, "Oh, he's great for the economy," then you have the other one say, "Oh, he's not," and you kind of get caught in the middle, and you don't really know what's the truth. Is there a truth? And I guess that's how I feel sometimes. It's like,
No, you're right though. Journalism today is a dirty word, and the fact that we don't exactly know who is telling us the truth and who's selling us BS, it's been pretty problematic in America.
yeah, yeah, and I guess I have my issues, but
That's okay.
he won. You can't keep rehashing it. He won, maybe not legitimately. I'm not even gonna go there, but he won. For me, once he started criticizing John McCain, that was it for me. I could no longer support him. And there's been things that I've learned or I've heard about, and they've been verified that I cannot condone. But he's the president of our United States. He has
Right.
that office. He got there. He and his campaign knew what they were doing. I'll give them credit. that they have kept him there and keep doing what he's doing. I give them credit for that. That's very hard. I think a weaker candidate with other people would probably been more of a fiasco. But you got to give credit where credit's due. But I'm just going to simply say he's not
Not your cup of tea.
He's not my cup of tea.
I
don't know who is now. I mean, I really don't.
I know who really is though.
Yeah, I mean, really. I was just saying this the other day. I said, how many people do we have in the United States? And when you look at the people who actually get to the top, you just kind of like wonder. You scratch your head. There's got to be people more intelligent or more capable. You know what I mean? It's just kind of crazy.
Well, back in
I just had to laugh sometimes.
Back in 2017, we had, I think it was like something like 325.7 million. That's a figure just off the top of my head, but that was a statistic from 2017. I recall reading. So yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, well, you take away the children, and
right.
stuff, and and the very poor, they don't have a shot, maybe even middle class. But you gotta, I gotta, over the last few, it's like, gotta be some. Where are they? I mean, is it all about money? And that's a whole other thing.
Well, yeah, for a lot of people, that's
lobbying and stuff.
Yeah, for a lot of people, that's what it's all about, money, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows who and the money, and it's really not about skill or intelligence or knowledge. I think we've gotten away from that.
I always said that nepotism ruined this country, though. That's something I've always. Nepotism has ruined the country in many ways. I personally feel. That's more of a controversial stance.
I think it's a bad policy to begin with.
Well, yeah.
Who you know? Yeah, not what you know, it's who you know. I think that's a bad policy anyway.
I don't like that policy, but that's the way it works for a lot of businesses out there, and it just drives me crazy. I want to smash my head sometimes.
Yeah. Well, so do that.
Well, not that. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating, but yes, that's essentially how I feel. But going back to who exactly Trump will be running against, I'm not quite sure if everyone knows in terms of like the media, if anyone even knows exactly who will be running. But I've
been watching campaigns since I was a little girl on TV. It's way too early. It's way too early.
It is too early, right? But I think it's Bernie Sanders. I think he's going to be running.
Or Liz Warren, or
Kamala Harris.
Well, she has already put her name. She's already a candidate. Bernie has done it this week. I don't think anyone else has officially put their name in, except for those two.
Okay, so it's just those two. And
I believe it's just those two. Yeah.
From what I recall, Bernie, he made something like $6 million in donations in just 24 hours. That's crazy.
Well, what can I say?
That's a lot of money.
What can I say?
Yeah. Really quickly.
I don't want to anger people.
No, believe me, I kind of. Well, that's kind of, some of the basis of this show is to offend.
Yeah.
That is true. It's part of the show. You got to trigger some people out there. But yeah, Bernie Sanders, I'm not quite sure if he's he's not as polarizing as a Donald Trump. He doesn't have the same charisma that one Donald J. Trump possesses. That it's what's essentially won the American people over. But Bernie Sanders, he might be a bit of an impact player. I give him a pretty good chance of maybe sweeping this one under the rug. Perhaps. There's a chance.
I just think he's good at what Trump was. He knows his base. He knows how to talk to them. But I don't think he's going to have the power. I don't think he's going to have the staying power. I really don't. He'll always be vocal. He'll always be part of it. To actually get the nomination, I don't think so. But that's just my opinion.
Who really knows?
Who knows?
We have to wait and find out.
You're surprised. You never know. It's way too early. People would think, who was it? I forget who. There was one of the past presidents who didn't have a shot in you know where, and no one had any faith in him. I think it was it had to be him, and he surprised everyone. He kept moving on and moving on and moving up, and then I think it was Clinton I'm talking about. He was this little thing from Arkansas, and no one had. Oh, and Jimmy Carter. They didn't see where he was coming from, but they stayed with it, and they ran good campaigns. And by the time that the convention came around, they got nominated. So you never know.
Yeah, you don't know.
I just don't know.
Imagine if Joe Biden was the president.
Yeah.
I like Joe Biden. I think he's gonna. He's still kind of on the fence from what I can see, but he has experience, he has the knowledge, but again, I don't think he has the staying power. That's just my consent.
I don't think he possesses that sort of again, that charisma, that sort of essence.
Yeah.
Who was I thinking of right now? A good example of that. Ron Paul. Look at his son. His son doesn't have that same charisma as his father.
Oh, you're right about that.
You know what I'm talking about then? Yeah.
No way.
That's what I'm talking about. That sort of, that charisma, that power, that aura. The son doesn't have that. And I kind of see the next candidates, if they do decide to go heads up with Donald J. Trump there, I'm thinking which one can actually have that sort of charisma going for them that would captivate the rest of America and actually vote for him. It's hard to see that.
There's some people who are saying that whoever goes up against Trump, we're leaving you out of this, Jaimy. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Listening.
Is that someone's going to have to fight him tooth and nail, and really be very forceful. Don't put up with his crap. And maybe even fight dirty like he does. I'm not sure about that. No one should fight dirty like anything, but that it can't be someone who's just lackadaisical or wimp who doesn't come off as strong. It's going to have to be someone who can come off as strong and can go toe to toe with him and deflect because he likes to insult. That's how he deflects. He doesn't do it with intelligence or facts or things. He does it by calling people's names,
right,
or trashing you. So that person's going to have to rise above that and put that aside and really be forceful and say, no, you're not going to do that. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're going to discuss. So I'm not sure who that would be.
Sometimes you got to fight fire with fire and bury your competition as well.
Well, you got to be smart.
Sometimes you have to,
though. And skillful. You got to be smart and skillful. Maybe not in the same way, but you got to have a plan. You got to have a game plan.
You got to be strategic.
Exactly. You got to know it's kind of like football. You know how the coaches, they do all the, I'm going on and on. I'm sorry, but
that's okay.
The coaches, they have the players view the other team. And so that they have the telltale signs or where the weaknesses are and the set and stuff. That's what a campaign is about. You really got to know your other candidate, and you really got to know their weaknesses.
Learn the enemy. Yeah.
Learn the enemy, and you have to learn. You have to be smart on how you're going to use that. And how is the audience going to react?
Right.
Because some will like what you're going to do. Some people won't.
Agreed. And just to add really quickly here, I'll tell both of you this. The next president will not be Chris Christie or any time in the future, for that matter.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And here we go. This is going to be the offensive part. Personally, I don't think anyone from New Jersey will ever become president. That's pretty offensive.
Chris Christie, he really is a tragic figure. I think he could have had a chance at a much a more respected place and maybe even, maybe run for president or whatever. But he just tragically blew up. I mean, it was just tragic.
That's what I mean when I say no one from New Jersey will become president. They always shoot themselves in the foot. You notice that, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
about New Jersey, but a lot of politicians tend to do that in some way or somehow.
Oh my. Jamie, did you have anything to add there? We went back and forth there.
Yeah, no, I would say I would vote for ex-president who's ready to push the disclosure movement forward.
Ah,
I think that would be pretty exciting, and I've read or heard things that Trump has been interested in the topic. I know other presidents have been as well. I think that's pretty cool and fascinating. Yeah, in fact, both Obama, Hillary, and those folks have been on some late night TV shows talking about being asked about the ATIP program. I thought that was pretty interesting and kind of their comments on that. But no,
right.
I think I agree with a lot of what you said. I think whoever runs against Mr. Trump is going to have to President Trump is going to have to be bold and intelligent and have the charisma.
You got to let it all hang out if you're going to battle Trump, I think, personally.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And you can't back down.
I
yeah.
think that's the only way to beat the guy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Or he's
Yeah.
just gonna bury you on stage if you let him.
Yeah, he was known. He was known as being a bully throughout school. He knows how to do that well. From what I hear, how much is true, but I think even his own sister has said that he was pretty much a bully. So he knows how to, he likes to intimidate. He likes to bully. He likes to demean people. He's done it more than once. He does it often. And that's a strategy for him. It has worked well for him. So why would he change it?
Right.
Because there's people who like it, So why would he change it?
And
It
people
worked
do.
well with it.
Yeah, people gravitate towards it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
One thing I was going to mention is, I always find other people's perspective interesting, and so I was recently talking to a colleague of mine who works in Asia. He's been there for several years now working, and I said, hey, what's the perception? He works in Hong Kong, but I said, what's the perception, outside of the U.S. in terms of? I really want to know what people are talking about. And he said, honestly, that they think America is in a downward spiral, and everyone's wondering who the next superpower will be. Is it going to be China or is it going to be Russia? And I just so happened the other day to talk to another separate colleague. He's from India, but and works out in Singapore now. And I asked the same question, and the response was exactly the same. So I thought it was pretty fascinating. Two people, I got 2 data points. I asked the same question that really opposite ends of the globe here, and you get the same answer. So you wonder, is that really what's happening? And we're just in it, not seeing it because we're caught up in all the commotion. But hopefully not.
Well, we're definitely victims to what the media puts out there. It's terrible.
I think Putin is very intelligent, and I think he has a master plan. I really do. I think he would love to be king of the world. I don't know much about the guy in China, but Putin, he's not to be. I don't think you can take him lightly.
Not to be taken lightly. Yeah.
He will not back down.
That he won't.
He's not going to be. He's no fool. That's what I'm saying. He's nobody's fool.
Yeah.
And he won't back down. I think he has a grand plan, but he's very slow. He's probably very meticulous, and he's probably biding his time. But that's what I think.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns that that maybe a lot of Americans feel too is that we're so busy fighting with each other on these polarized topics, and there's so many right now in the country that when we're at odds with each other, it's hard to be a United States, and I think that's where a lot of great civilizations kind of go down the bad path there. And history repeats itself. So hopefully we can correct course here soon.
I agree with you. It does have me perturbed the way that other countries do perceive us and their entire perception of America and what goes on. It is a little troublesome the way the outside looking in observes us like we're just all insane. For the most part, we kind of are though. But in terms of our,
I think that's another skill Trump has. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't care how other people, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, well, I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do anyway.
I'm with that mindset as well. But you kind of have to worry a little bit when you're the president, though, and you want to
Well,
uphold
you
the
would
country to
think,
some.
yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you would
Agreed.
think.
Again, I like and dislike Trump at the same time. Personally, I definitely agree
Okay.
with him and disagree with him all the time. But again, he's like our guy, though. He's still
Absolutely, he's our
our
president.
crazy leader that we have.
Mhm.
Well, like I said, I think I always have respect for the presidency.
Right.
We
Yeah.
have to take it seriously.
Kind of have to.
And we've had great presidents. We've had so-so presidents. We've had terrible. I mean, the United States is going to go on whether we have Trump another 4 years or not,
Yep.
one way or the other.
It doesn't matter
And
who's
we're going to
president.
go on.
Yeah. To be honest
Yeah.
with you, it
Yeah,
really no president is really going to save any country or any nation from
Right.
anything. Really, that's just the harsh facts of it all.
Exactly.
But no, I'm with
These
you.
are things too. They do the best they can with what they think is best. I mean, you see Republicans, people want the Republicans. They come in, they turn more liberal because of the tragedies that happened during their term. Then you have the Democrats who are more liberal, and then they get into their presidency, and they have to get more conservative again because of the needs of the people of the United States. I mean, you never know when you take on the presidency what battles you're going to be dealing with.
That too, and the physical
yeah.
toll it takes on anyone who goes into becoming the president. Yeah, you age like 20 years.
You do,
Yep.
and the decisions that people have to make, life or death sometimes, and priorities. It's not, it's not an easy job.
Yeah, I was gonna say you age probably more than 20 years.
Probably in some ways.
Well,
Probably.
actually, you know what? Now that I said that, that reminds me of how George Bush, how he kind of seemed to get life back into him once he left office.
I think they all do. Give it a year or two, they write their book, they get the museum together, and they get some relaxing. They don't have to be waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning because there's a little crisis or something. They can relax, they can get some sleep, they can get back to a regular, and they feel better, they feel lighter. They don't have that responsibility on their shoulder anymore.
I mean, look at Obama. When he was in office there, you had seen photos of him, smoking a cigarette, looking a little dusty there. And then after he got out, he's looking great. He's looking like he's been playing golf. He's been playing basketball with Michael Jordan almost, it seems like. He's more vibrant. The color is back into him. And same with Bush. Once he left, he looked near death. And now fast forward all these years later, now he's looking good. He seems to have that sense of humor back. He's made me laugh a bunch of times. Yeah, it's very interesting to see how becoming the president takes that physical toll from you. Interesting stuff.
Oh yeah, very interesting.
You know about that, Jaimy?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I've seen it. We've seen it with the presidents how they age. So during their term, and we saw it definitely with Obama. You see pictures before and after. It's pretty fascinating. Certainly with Clinton, and so most recent presidents, absolutely. And it is a demanding job, both mentally and physically. And
that's nuts. Yeah.
And at that age, I'm in my 40s, and I have a 1-year-old, and that's physically challenging enough. So I can't imagine being president.
That's tough enough.
Yeah.
Good Lord! Imagine being the president. Imagine being any celebrity that has that sort of notoriety, and you're so famous and this and that, and you have the media on you nonstop. I mean, that's insane. That is exhausting.
Yeah. It takes a toll on you. Yeah.
Good Lord. So, Jaimy and Valerie, I do want to thank you so much for being a part of the program. I had such a great time talking to you.
Oh, well, thank you for having us on. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
It was a fun improv conversation here. I knew what I wanted to talk about with you, but, at times I take notes for everyone, really. But what ends up happening, about 9 out of 10 times, those notes go right out the window.
Yeah.
They really do. And before I let you
Yeah.
guys, yeah, before I let you guys go, uh, I'm gonna give both of you the last word. Go ahead and say anything you'd like. Definitely plug the conference coming up. Valerie, we'll start with you first. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm just again. It's our website is x dash filers filers.com united.com xfilersunited.com, and the hotel information that you can buy your tickets online. The hotel information there. The updated programming will be up within 1 to 2 weeks. And just comment. You're just gonna enjoy yourself. The quality of the speakers. I mean, these are the who's who of the field. You just thoroughly enjoy it. I know you'll have a great time. So I hope to see you in Rhode Island at the last weekend in April.
Amazing. Well, Valerie, thank you so much for being a part of the
Yeah.
program, and we'll talk to you in the near future.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you, Michael. Bye, Jamie.
All right. Bye, Valerie. Good night.
Bye, Val.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you, Michael.
So, Jaimy, again,
Yeah.
final words before we cut you loose here. Go ahead. The stage is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having both Val and I on. It's been a pleasure. Really, really appreciate you allowing us to come on here and getting the word out to you listeners about the X Filers United Convention here in April 26th or the 28th in Rhode Island. You know, if you can make it out, we'd love to meet you in person and have you out here yourself. And you know, for your listeners, those that want to attend, I think you'll learn a ton. I guarantee it. It's going to be an awesome event. Like as we mentioned, tremendous lineup, and we'd love to see as many of your listeners out here in Rhode Island, and we'll give you a warm welcome to the state and to the event. And this has been an absolute pleasure from my end, and really appreciate it, and appreciate all the work you do, Michael. So thanks very much.
Well, thank you very much for putting me over that way. I do appreciate it. And yes, definitely go check out the conference and say hi to Jaimy and Valerie if you are out there. I would love to be there, except I would probably die due to the cold conditions since, I'm a desert rat. Might just die out there.
Yeah, well, it's April 26th, so you're starting to hit spring, and you had some nice days in April there, so it could be really pleasant.
Yeah, I actually would like to go out there though. It's would be a good experience to go out in the East Coast and soak up all that sort of fun out there. I know the East Coast is pretty unforgiving, and that's a good place for someone like me to go and hang around certain individuals out there.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So Jaimy, once again, thank you so much. Really do appreciate your time here, and of course, we will touch back with you in the near future, my friend.
Very good. Thank you, Michael. Have a good night, and good night to your listeners.
All right, Jaimy, take care and mahalo, my friend.
Mahalo.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That was Jaimy Mauricio. Great, great guy. And Valerie, another great person. Really did enjoy talking to both of them here. And looking at that time, oh, yes, it certainly is that hour where we go on a little break, go to the restroom if you need to, or go to the fridge. The choice is yours. And when I return, we'll wrap up the program here. Stay tuned. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are back from that little break. So good to see so many of you still out there. So many lovely people out there, and of course, the ugly people too. God loves ugly. I've got some news to go over, and I'm also joined by another soul, Vanessa.
Hi,
There you are.
how are you?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. I'm glad you're
That's
here.
great. Yay,
Yeah, I got some.
Florida correspondent,
There we go. I had some the 805. I had
305.
305. I don't know why I said 805. Oh, I'm thinking of something else. Wrong number
Oh,
there. But yes, I am glad you're here. I had some news to go over, and of course, it would be good to get your reaction on that too.
all right, great.
And what a week it's been.
hmm
Oh yes, we all made it out alive. No one in handcuffs that I know. What?
No, was there any shootings? I don't think so.
No shootings, but thank God. And of course, if you're religious or whatnot, thank your God, whatever deity it is you pray for. Anywhere is better than inside of a cage.
That's right.
Yeah, man. I mean, come on. Who the hell wants to be in jail? No one.
No, but there's a few people
There
that are in
is.
jail.
There are a few people that are in jail, indeed. And of course, that brings me to someone who might, well, I'm not quite sure if they'll end up in jail per se, but of course, that cheapskate, Robert Kraft, who pulled an amateur move, boys and girls. He could have done things, he could have done everything appropriately and got himself some high end hookers legally. He's got plenty of money to do so and the resources to get it done, folks. However, he wanted to be a complete cheap ass, and he didn't go around the proper protocol to obtain said higher end hookers. Instead, he went to some Asian spa out there in, I think it was like Jupiter, Florida. Have you ever been there, Vanessa?
I think I've traveled through there. There's not much, but there's probably a lot of happy ending places, you know?
Well, I mean, he got a happy ending, no doubt.
Well, I don't think so, actually.
Well, sorta. He kind of did. He got
Okay.
what he wanted.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you can't be cheap. If you're gonna do it, you gotta do it right so that you don't get diseases.
That's what happened, though. He was just being a cheap ass.
Yeah.
He could have done everything right, but no, he got lazy there and was going to this Asian spa place, getting the old tug job there. Amazing, really. I can't believe it.
Amazing.
I can you believe it though? I mean,
I mean, maybe he just wanted to be relatable. Like he wanted to be
relatable.
like everybody else. Like everybody else. Like maybe he doesn't want the high end. Maybe he just wants to be like any regular person.
He wanted to get something like a waitress,
Exactly. He wanted somebody humble, you know?
like normal folk. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to understand why a billionaire would do that, you know?
I know he just got so lazy. It's actually quite incredible, really. For those that don't know, we are talking about New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, who has been charged with a misdemeanor solicitation of a prostitute,
Mhm.
soliciting a prostitute, and I believe, and I'm going off the top of my head here. I should probably bring up an article, but I'm trying to remember more things to build up some muscle memory, as they like to say. But
Mhm.
yes, he was arrested in some sort of prostitution sting job out there in your neck of the woods in Florida,
Mhm.
with potential ties to human trafficking. Holy shit!
Yeah,
That
that's not good.
that does not get good for anyone, really. And apparently, he was good friends with Donald Trump, and it got all political all of a sudden. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, you are who you hang out with and stuff like that.
Well, Donald Trump, he claims he didn't know what Kraft was into, but
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're friends with
well,
people and you don't know what they're doing.
that's true. You don't always necessarily know what they're doing behind closed doors.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you can't really give Donald too much heat there. I'm pretty sure he didn't know.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, he's weird, but I'm sure he didn't know.
Yeah, I have a feeling he probably didn't know too much about Robert Kraft there and what he
Yeah.
likes to do behind closed doors. But Robert Kraft, he kind of ruined it for everyone, right?
I mean,
The NFL
there's a lot
owners.
of people ruining things for everyone lately. Like other celebrities ruining things for other
Oof.
people. Like I don't believe celebrities anymore either.
Oh, yes. Are you referring back to the actor from Empire?
Yeah, I don't watch that show though.
I didn't even know that shit existed.
I thought that show was canceled a long time ago.
Apparently, it's like a big deal, though. Some people like it.
I mean, it's not my cup of tea. I guess.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
not.
know. I've never.
Yeah, I'm not a big Empire fan either. Didn't even know
Yeah,
that show or that guy existed.
me either. But apparently,
He's got some fans, but
now everybody knows who he is, but not for the right reason.
yeah, that's terrible, really. And of course, going back to this, now I have the article up. Police appear to have secretly taped the happenings inside the massage parlor,
Hmm.
and Kraft was reportedly captured on surveillance video engaging in a sex act with an employee at the spa. So he's kind of screwed.
Well,
Actually,
did
never
he
mind.
did he
I-
screw anybody?
No, I take it back. Even though he appeared on video, just look at R. Kelly, he was able to get away with it even though he was on video in the courtroom.
Okay,
Isn't that crazy?
that is crazy. Why?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the ramifications. I didn't exactly go into that sort of detail
Oh, okay.
when I researched R. Kelly because, I don't really want to do too much research into R. Kelly. I don't want to
Me either.
I don't want anything to come up on my computer that shouldn't be there.
I believe I can fly.
Well, he's what a sick bastard, right?
Yeah, I've never really liked him.
I mean, he's
Ever.
peeing on girls.
I
He
mean, people are into weird shit.
he
I don't know,
thought-
Michael.
he thought he was Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry was also into peeing on girls back in the day, back in his time, which was
Yeah.
many moons ago, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, he was the original R. Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Peeing on girls, peeing in their mouth. He was into the water sports,
See, underage things, I don't like that. But like peeing, I mean, I would never get peed on. But like, I mean, I'm not into that. But I don't see anything weird with that. But he is disgusting. 'cause
You don't
he's,
see anything weird about
he's
peeing
a
on
pedo.
someone?
What?
Did you say you don't think peeing on someone's weird? It's normal.
I do think it's weird, but people are into all kinds of stuff.
Well, that's
I'm
true.
not-
Don't deny
I'm
that.
not judging people.
I'm not judging anyone either, but
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy though. I mean,
I don't know. Maybe you want to mix things up. Maybe you want to pee on your girl once in a while.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, that would probably be as far as it goes. I'm not going to go to that Charlie Sheen level where, I'm taking my anger out on, men.
Mhm. That's gross. Yeah.
Or, man, how he fell off, right? Charlie Sheen, yeah.
It's dark times.
It's real dark time. But yes, of course, going back to the owner of the Patriots, Robert Kraft. I'm sure his attorney is going to handle it all. However, this is just another day in life for Robert Kraft, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's just weird that he would go to,
It is. And going back to R. Kelly here, I really doubt R. Kelly will walk away scot-free. I believe he will have to serve some time since minors were involved, but they will have to testify at the end of the day. Of course,
yeah.
we'll have to see how that one turns out, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll see
Amazing.
it, even though we won't look it up. We'll find out.
We'll find out eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to find out any other way. Michael Avenatti, he turned in some sort of sex tape to the police department there.
Hmm.
I kept thinking, why do you even have that?
A sex tape?
Well, of him, of R. Kelly and underage girls. I mean, I don't think I would want to possess that.
That is very weird, and that is
Ugh.
disturbing.
Imagine having to see that in court.
That's gross. Yeah, disturbing.
That is disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord. But yes. And of course, earlier I mentioned Michael Jackson to the previous guests. Did you?
Yeah, they kind of didn't want to talk about it.
They kind of did not like that, did they? They kind of wanted to just save the world.
Yeah, I think that was like out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, I don't think they liked it very much either. I sort
No.
of got that hint.
That vibe.
Yeah, this is what was playing in the background for them when I was talking about Michael Jackson.
Oh God.
They were like, "No, he's innocent, I swear. It doesn't matter if he shared his bed with kids. I mean, it's normal, Michael. You could share your bed with children."
Yeah, people don't understand. They're ignorant. They don't know.
Oh my God. I would never share my bed with a stranger, nor would I share my bed or my children's bed with a complete stranger. I don't care if they're a celebrity. That's if I
Exactly.
had.
That's on the parents.
That's if I had a child. I mean, what the hell's wrong with you for even letting your son or daughter, whatever you want to call them nowadays? Why would you even leave them
Now,
with
Michael,
someone like that?
there's other genders, not just son and daughter.
Oh, that's true. Yes, we have to be PC here.
Yeah, PC.
Got to be PC, folks. Yes, we got another update on that whole Michael Jackson documentary.
I want to see that actually.
I really do. Apparently, Michael and HBO, well, not Michael Jackson, but his estate, those who own the rights and properties of one Michael Jackson, HBO, they aren't caving to the legal threats by the estate of Michael Jackson. HBO is basically saying, we don't give a goddamn. We're going to put this out. We don't care about any lawsuit. We're going to put it out because we're HBO. So you could kiss my ass, is basically what they're saying in this latest update here.
Good.
Yeah, I mean,
I really want to see it.
I want to see it. I'm just completely baffled by it all. HBO will be moving forward with the airing of Leaving Neverland. It's a two-part documentary that will be coming out March 3rd and 4th. This will...
It's going to be disturbing.
Apparently, the statement here says, this will allow everyone the opportunity to assess the film and the claims in it for themselves. I believe that's how the article stated this. But yeah, my God. Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that listen to your show like him, but like I think he's creepy.
But trust me,
Or he looks
he's creepy, all right.
Yeah, he's creepy, and I said guilty.
Yeah, you think he's guilty, but he was acquitted of 7 counts of child molestation and 2 counts of giving a drug to a 13-year-old boy.
But he settled.
Yeah.
That screams guilty.
It's pretty disgusting either way.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it real here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, one thing, peeing on your woman is one thing, molesting children is another thing.
That's a whole nother ball game.
Exactly.
Holy
we do not
shit.
like that.
We can't tolerate that sort of behavior, especially on this program.
And actually, let me tell you something. Every time like his music comes on,
You get freaked out?
I'm not gonna lie, I get a little disturbed and I take it off.
You get a little weirded out?
I get a little, like, it has tainted, like, yeah, I don't like listening to his music because I think, oh man, was he singing this to like a little child?
Oof.
Like, what was going on here?
My God. That's true.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
I don't even want to think about that, but yeah, Michael Jackson. He's a freak.
Yeah.
I don't really care how you feel about it.
Allegedly.
The signs were there, people. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Now that brings me to some more sad news.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes. Well, folks, another one bites the dust. Comedian Stephen Brody kicked the bucket at age 48. According to sources, LAPD was dispatched to the scene And investigators spoke with his family. Of course, audio from the emergency dispatchers is available, where officials describe the scene as a quote-unquote hanging. Good Lord. And from what I read, he got off his meds, Vanessa, and he was on and off the meds, and that's where I suspect the depression took over his life. And just one day, he finally was just like, F it all. I'm kicking the bucket. It's over. And that's exactly what Mr. Stephen Brody did, ladies and gentlemen. Another comedian gone. He went out like Robin Williams. Very sad.
The same way?
Well, I don't think he was masturbating, but he did hang himself.
No, I don't think. I don't think.
Well, that was a joke.
I don't
but
think
yes.
Genie from Aladdin was masturbating.
He wasn't. He wasn't. I just threw that in there for.
Oh, okay, that's David Carradine.
For Lowe's.
For lols.
Yeah, I mean, I had to bring in some funny there. It's sad news.
Jokes.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's sad news. He was a good guy, apparently. I didn't know him personally, of course, but I know from clips I've heard from him, he seemed like he was a pretty down and out type of guy. What I mean by that is I've kind of always felt he had one foot in the grave.
Oh God.
He always
comedians are
seemed,
usually really depressed,
yeah, they're
right?
very effed in the head, most comedians. And it's sad, really. So got off the meds and fell into this really bad state of depression. And apparently he was always very open about his issues with his depression and the past, his drug use. And from another thing I recall reading was that he was disappointed over negative reactions to a comedy special he had taped. And wow, holy shit. If he killed himself over a bad set that he felt was inadequate, and he killed himself over some bullshit, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, he was in the wrong business because I mean, you can't kill yourself for that.
Show business was not for him, I guess.
Yeah, you can't win them all.
You can win them all. And of course, if anyone out there is listening to this and you're suicidal, listen up, you are not alone. And I don't mean that in the Michael Jackson sense of lyrics that he wrote. We all.
Oh God, it's hard to take you seriously when you say stuff like that.
Oh, of course. Well, I was trying to get serious now. And
Okay.
here we go. And of course, we all go through things in life. We all know that leave us feeling like life is not fair at all, or everything is bad, and all the bad things in this world only happen to me, and things never go right. I know that's some of you out there. And of course, no matter what you are facing, don't let the chaos of life confuse you or break you down. I promise it'll all get better soon. So now back to Brody here.
I mean, I've been depressed before, not to get emo on your show, but like I've been depressed before, and you know what? Like, there's always like a new day the next day, and it always gets better. I mean, it's not gonna get it. It just makes you stronger. Honestly, it really, really does. Anything that you survive makes you stronger.
I agree. And going back to Mr. Brody here, I never watched any of his stand-up. He's another comedian I'd only watch in short clips, Vanessa. And I liked him a little bit. However, again, I could tell immediately that he was problematic and very complex, like many of us tend to be. But I knew psychologically he wasn't right in his head. I could just tell he was pretty messed up in there.
Yeah, I think to kill, like, if you kill yourself, you're like, yeah, you're like on another level.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
It's pretty sad, yeah.
Yeah, to go out that way, I've always been, in the past, I've always been kind of blunt about those who commit suicide, and I always said, that's completely selfish for your fans and for anyone who cares about you, really. And I still hold on to that. However, I would always say only cowards would do something of that sort. And now I kind of want to go back and just say, I don't exactly feel that way now anymore. I definitely do feel for those out there who go through these things. And I don't believe them to be cowards at all. I just think perhaps, obviously, they made decisions they probably shouldn't have made. that drove them to their final destination point there. But it'll all get better though, ladies and gentlemen. If you are sad and down about whatever it is, don't worry. It will get better and the sun will shine on you eventually. I do promise that. And, that brings me around back to, well, before I say that, uh, rest in peace to Brody Stevens out there, wherever he may be, ladies and gentlemen. So, of course, now that brings us back around to a certain email I received, Vanessa, from a listener in the UK named Craig. And when I first read the email, the room almost got dusty for a second there, but I closed the window.
Aw. You got teary-eyed?
Almost.
Aw.
And I didn't want
How
to.
cute.
I don't want. I don't want to give away the details because I don't think he even wanted me to address this on the air. I just wanted to say thank you to him for being a listener, and I'm happy to know that my show has helped you with your depression and anxiety issues. There are others out there who have expressed similar similar things to me, and each time it's not exactly that easy for me to respond in any way that will really capture my emotions over, to be honest with you. When I first started doing this show, I didn't know I would play that sort of role for anyone. But I know you're out there, wherever you may be. And I'm incredibly moved by all of you. And of course, Craig out there. Moved by your kind words and lots of great people out there. Thanks for putting up with my nonsense here on the program. And that will almost draw us to an end here, Vanessa. We are almost time for us to close shop. But I don't want to.
That was so nice that it is perfect. It's a perfect ending.
Well, that's, I didn't want to end things on a sad note. I wanted to bring around to some crazy stuff here.
Oh, good. Another joke.
Gotta make it happy here.
Yeah. You bummed me out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
I gotta bring
I'm
you
just
back up.
kidding.
Yeah, I don't want to end things on a low note there.
But I'm gonna say, look, I've looked forward to your show before. Like, it's nice to have something to look forward to and listen to. And I'm one that I could say your show has helped me with like certain things because I look forward to it and I like listening to it and it's cool and that helps when you're depressed. It really, really does to have something to look forward to. So I will say I agree with that person that emailed you.
Those sentiments, yes.
Yes, I agree. And I understand.
Yeah, so thank you all out there for putting up with my nonsense here. And of course, before we end the program, rather, I thought we'll end it with more of a humorous story. And of course, a few shows back, I interviewed Linda Godfrey, and we talked a little bit about Bigfoot. And Vanessa, maybe the next day, I recall there was like this article about a couple having sex outdoors in Bigfoot costumes, and they accidentally got shot by hunters.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah.
Is it in Florida?
No,
sounds very Florida.
It is actually very Florida. You could look it up. I believe it was a couple in Ohio, and I do have the article here. It says an Ohio couple's attempt to spice up their sex life with some kinky role play turned horribly wrong. As they were both shot by hunters while having sex in the woods in Sasquatch costumes.
I mean, but what a way to go.
I'm not sure if they died, though.
Oh, okay. Well, they're furries, obviously.
Isn't that crazy, though? I mean, Chris, I believe his name is Chris 43, the girlfriend, Janet 41. I guess they were wearing these, well, in the article it says disguises, but they weren't in disguise. Yeah, it says here they were engaging in loud sex in a wooded area a few miles out of Woodsfield when they were spotted by local hunters.
That's messed up that they would kill Bigfoot, though.
It says here it looked like a couple of gorillas mating like crazy. They were standing over 6 feet tall or 6 foot tall and kept growling and moaning. They really look like wild creatures.
Story?
This is a real story. I'm not making it up.
Okay. I
Isn't
like it.
isn't that something else?
I mean, goals, honestly.
It really is. I mean, that's a hell of a story. Yeah, me and my girlfriend were dressed up as Bigfoot and we were banging and we both got shot.
That
That's a
honestly,
story.
that is the hottest. That's the hottest story ever, and I'm into it. I'm into it.
That's so funny.
That's funny.
It is.
That's
That's a good one. And it says here criminal charges could eventually be filed against the negligent hunters. And it says, despite the unfortunate accident, Jared, I think that's the guy. I believe that's one of the guys there who shot at them.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what it is. He remains convinced that Sasquatches exist, and says he won't. He says he won't hesitate to kill it if he sees a real one.
Okay.
Good Lord.
I mean, but they were just having sex. That's nice.
How do you mistake that though?
I mean, I don't know. Was there holes? I need to.
I know so many
I need an
questions, right?
image. I have questions.
We really need to dissect this one and go further in.
Yeah. Oh.
Pun intended.
Nice.
That was good, right?
That was really good. I mean, and on the spot.
That's
that was
how,
great.
well, you know, how I get down.
Oh yeah.
I get down. Well, Vanessa, I will be closing up shop right now. I know it's 10:17. It's time to close up here, Vanessa. So I definitely want you to say good night and say anything you'd like before we let you go, Vanessa. Anything on your mind, get it off your chest now. It's all good.
Good night, and I hope you have a nice weekend.
I know I will. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much again for being here and helping out in the fun. I do appreciate you greatly.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
305.
305, not 805. 305.
I know the 805. That's a highway out here, California.
Okay.
it's the one of the most popular. But yes, thank you, Vanessa,
All right.
so much. Love you very much.
Love you too. Good night.
All right, good night. Take care.
Bye.
And there she goes, ladies and gentlemen. That was Vanessa. Give her a round of applause there. That was fantastic. I had a great time. I also would like to thank Deprogrammed Radio and coming right up, of course, Steampunk Radio as well. And those in the chat room. Gang of 4, I see you there still. Really appreciate all of you out there. Thank you for hanging out with me and listening to the guests. 2 great guests earlier. Amazing stuff. I'm Michael Decon. And with that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, good night, everybody.